Okay. I believe that we can start now. Just a few words from the deputy of the head of my department, comparative biomedicine and food science, Professor Sandro Mazzarioli.
Thank you, Alessandra, for introducing me. And good morning, everybody, and welcome in this Foggy Legnaro, which is the typical weather we have in this flatland. Unfortunately, we cannot offer better than this, but we try to do the best in the next days. So welcome. I know that you are working hard also yesterday with the Netpoulsafe final meetings, and now we will start a new adventure with this better cost action. So, and I'm here to bring you the greetings from the director of the department. I'm a vet, I'm appointed for the veterinary medicine affairs in our department. So I'm a vet pathologist, so I'm very close to your issues, and I'm working mainly with wildlife. So I'm close and far, but in general, we're trying to dialogue with all these kind of issues related to biosafety. So the project I have seen, the results are from Netpoulsafe, and I have to say that they're very, very nice. The products that you have implemented during this year are very helpful, I think, for the stakeholders, but I think that they can be also transferred also in other fields of knowledge. Now, as a department, with the other department of Agripolis, this campus, we are now involved in the European Partnership for the animal health and welfare, and we are talking about biosafety, talking about a lot of different fields of biosafety. And I think that what you're discussing here will be very, very useful for the entire community of the veterinary sciences, but also the stakeholders involved in animal production. Our department is a very complicated department. It's a department made and composed by different professionals. We have biologists, we have agronomists, we have veterinary sciences. It's sometimes very complicated because it's I don't know how to say it's we overlap, we talk different languages, but we try to harmonize to find out a way to dialogue and work together. And in the last year, we have been very successful. We are appointed the Department of Excellence from the Ministry for the research and in different fields on science and veterinary science, from the sea to the mainland, from the invertebrates to the whales. And one of the research topics is the one health and the veterinary science. And I think that Alessandra is one of the best actors of these research topics we have implemented for recent years in this in our department and the department working together with the other department from the campus and the Institutes of Popular Institutes, which is the other veterinary stakeholders. So I also would like to thank Alessandra to bring here these meetings, and also the team which helped Alessandra to organize this. I don't want to take the floor too much, and thanks again for being here, and have a nice work during these days.
Now, Alberto, the chair of the Cost Better, is going to say some words.
No, just really short, just to say hello to everyone, and thanks for joining again. This is our fourth or fifth meeting. No, the first one online, and we have 4 face-to-face. And yeah, and I want to thank Alexandra for the group for being the host, and also the Netpoulsafe members to make this join a first day meeting. I think that is very, very nice to have it. And the more important thing, not forget of signing the paper, because otherwise you will not get the reimbursed. Just say it once, and then not any more time. So yeah, so anything. So really, we can go with the
So now I leave the floor to the coordinator of a Netpoulsafe project,
Thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you, Sandra, for the organization, first of all. Thank you also to the Casbetter chair, co-chair, and everyone for this joint meeting. We're very happy to be here today to present you our results and the work we've done during these last 3 years of Netpoulsafe with everyone. So it will be a short introduction to the project because I think lots of you already have heard about the project. So to start with, where does Netpoulsafe come from? Just a short introduction. We have a great poultry production in the European Union. Sorry. So in 2022, it represented 13.4 million tons of poultry meat produced and also 6.8 million tons of eggs produced. So this is one of the main poultry was one of the main production in Europe. But with this size and type of production, there also comes lots of sanitary challenges with other challenges. Whether they represent economic impact for the poultry production, whether it represent issues for animal welfare or also public health issues. We can cite avian influenza, salmonella, campylobacter, many different issues that we have. It is acknowledged that the main defense that we have against these sanitary challenges is biosecurity. If those biosecurity measures are well known, however, they're not always applied completely for different reasons. That can be economic or time breaks. It can be personal experiences from the people. It can be many different factors. So from this, how do we go and how do we improve biosecurity compliance in poultry production? The whole goal of Netpoulsafe was these 3 things. First, to collect the best supporting measures that we could have to help improve biosecurity compliance in the field, to test these supporting measures and to validate also them and disseminate the different results that we've had on the supporting measures. To do this, we also chose to do a network because poultry production is all around Europe. So we worked with 7 different countries for this and for this synergy. So we work with Netherlands, Zedelto, I don't know where they are. There, up there, our Dutch friends. We work with Belgium as well, so we have Jeroen and RT, that is somewhere else too. Oh, there's RT. We work with Poland, so here, Hungary as well, they're everywhere. With Italy, obviously, and we work with Spain as well. Aitor is here, representative, and with France we have different partners. Susan, we have there and there. So this is all of our network here is represented. It's bigger than this, but you have the main different countries here today. Thank you also to all of you to be here today. So with the 7 countries, we worked together for 3 years. And on this question on supporting measures and how to improve biosecurity compliance. So we're very happy to present to you all today our results. So I will briefly present the program. We'll start with telling you about the obstacles in the implementation of biosecurity and supporting measures. Then we will tell you a bit about what implementing the supporting measure taught us. We'll have a bit of a roundtable and on the network facilitators' experiences on the network, also on the implementation on the field of those supporting measures. And then we will also tell you a bit of how to produce materials to help the stakeholders in the end with improving their biosecurity compliance. And we will end also with a Q&A sessions and a bit of discussion with Alberto and Elias on the European perspectives and how to deal with biosecurity in a more global way. For this Q&A session, if you have any question, you have 10 seconds right now to try to go on this QR code, scan the QR code. You will go to a Slido and you can ask your questions online and we will review them and go through them at the end of the session. So I can give you 10 seconds right now. And we will also, you will find also at another place in the meeting if you didn't have time to scan the QR code. And I guess I will also call ANSES and Poland to start the presentation as well. ANSES. Thank you very much, and enjoy the presentations.
Hello, hello everybody. So I am Robin Swigard and I'm from ANSES, and we are going with Arthur from Groups. We are going to present to you the hot steps in the implementation of biosecurity and supporting measures to improve biosecurity. So interface studies were conducted with farmers, advisors, and operators in country with two parts. The first part is about the obstacles in the implementation of biosecurity measures in country, conducted by ANSES, and the second part is about the supporting measures to improve biosecurity, conducted by Woods. And then we are going also to present to you analysis of the poultry biosecurity database by a University of Veterinary of Toulouse in France. So the first part, the obstacle in the implementation of biosecurity measures. So the context of the study. So poultry in Europe has recently been affected by successive highly pathogenic avian influenza crises that emphasizes the need to enhance prevention of animal disease at European level. And you can see here the distribution of the number of avian influenza virus detection in domestic birds reported in Europe by month from the journal EFSA. So in the context of European commercial actions globalization in Europe, the spread of animal transmissible disease can lead to devastating economic and social consequences. So the European Council recently stressed the key role of biosecurity in reducing the risk of animal disease with an integrated approach within the European Union. So biosecurity is a preventive tool to reduce both the risk of introduction of animal disease and also the risk of the establishment and spread. So biosecurity practices and their expected benefits are well known, but several studies have reported suboptimal application of biosecurity on poultry farm. And we know that a lot of factors can determine the application of biosecurity, and these factors are complex and could involve both technical, economical, and psychological factors. So the objectives of our study were from the farmer, the advisor, and the operator point of view, were first of all to provide an overview of the implementation of biosecurity in poultry, and then to understand the reason and the obstacles for non-implementing biosecurity measures. So this study was not designed to be representative of poultry production in European Union or to compare countries between them, but to collect global field opinion while taking into account the wide diversity of poultry production and farming system at European level. So identifying the difficulties encountered on the field will make then it possible to develop, adapt, and tailor the supporting measures to improve biosecurity compliance on the farm. So farmers, advisors, and operators interviewed. So 192 farmers were interviewed in our study in various poultry production, both farmer under contact and independent farmers. For the advisor, 157 advisors were interviewed in companies, veterinarian, interprofession, and public institutions. And then 57 operators in eggs collection facilities, feed suppliers, hatcheries, and slaughterhouses. So this is a sampling of our study. So the production enclosed boiler and enclosed layers were mandatory in each country, like you can see here. And then for the other production, the choice was free according to the specificity and the feasibility in each country. And we plan to have 5 farmers and 4 advisors in each country and in each production. So this is the global sampling for farmer and advisor. For the operator, in each country, for each category of operator, we plan to interview 2 operators in each category. So we prepared three questionnaires, farmer questionnaire, advisor questionnaire, and operator questionnaire. For farmer and advisor, we had 62 biosecurity measures, and for operator, 55 biosecurity measures. And then we have a similar biosecurity item in the 3 questionnaires with external biosecurity and internal biosecurity. 10 items for external biosecurity and 5 items for internal. So external biosecurity with animal production on the site, structure and circulation on the site, visitor, personnel, field and drinking water, biological water, management of the manure, dead animal, food production, and also transport of animal, eggs or feed for the operator questionnaire. And for the internal biosecurity, structure and circulation in the poultry facility, management of the litter, of the material, cleaning, disinfection, management of the odor and of the poultry or eggs. So 3 questionnaires. For each biosecurity measure, we had the same 3 questions. So for the question implementation, the question result, and efficiency. So for the implementation, we ask, for example, to the farmers, do you implement this measure on your farm? So always, sometimes, never, other frequency. For the advisor, according to you, does this measure implemented on the farm? So according to the advisor. And for the operator, for the company, do you implement this measure on your company? And then, for a measure not always implemented on your farm, could you explain the reason? So according to the farmer, the advisor, and the operator. And for the efficiency also, do you think that this measure would be efficient for your farm, for the measure not always implemented on the farm? So we had 3 similar questionnaires with same biosecurity measure for farmer or advisor, specific biosecurity measure for operator, and with the similar 3 questions. So the results, this is the farmers' interviews on the implementation of biosecurity. So this is the distribution of all the replies given by the farmer on the implementation of the 62 biosecurity measures. So you can see here that for most of the answer, in green here, always, biosecurity measures are declared always implemented by the farmer. 81% considering all the production, because here you have the different production, breeders, on year, free years, the 7 different production. So 81% considering always implemented. For the advisor interview, you have the same graph here, the distribution of all the replies given by the advisor. So the biosecurity measures are declared less implemented by the advisor compared to the farmer, with 68% here in green, all poultry, versus 81%. So high biosecurity level seems to be declared implemented by farmers and advisor, but with some deficiencies. So we reported here the biosecurity measure declared less implemented by farmer and advisor based on the 10 biosecurity measures less implemented in each production. So you have here the different items, and in brown, this is the 10 biosecurity measures declared less implemented by the advisor, in blue by the farmer, and in hatch box by advisor and farmer. So you can see that there is a similar biosecurity measure declared less implemented by farmer and advisor. And these measures are grouped in 3 categories. The first group is about the measure concerning the entering on the site with vehicle and personnel. So this is measure about circulation, delimitation of the professional area, disinfection of vehicle before entering, about the personnel, specific clothes, washing your hands, showering, and about eggs management with a specific entrance collection and specific clothes and shoes if the driver enters on the farm. The second category is about the measure related to the other animals on the site with all production, sanitary barriers with other production on the site, no domestic animal on the site, and protective net on the free range area. And the last and third category of measure, less implemented, are related to general hygiene, with feed and water, drinking water analysis, dead animal, removal of carcasses on the tank cleaning and disinfection, concrete surround around the house, the retomesial separate material and protection of the litter, and several measures about cleaning disinfection of the house, water pipeline, feed silo, and bacterial auto-control. And also 2 measures about hatching eggs, disinfection on the farm, and cleaning disinfection of the storage room after each collection. So this is now about the reason reported by farmer and advisor for not implementing biosecurity measure. Like you can see in the questionnaire, we ask the question for a measure not always implemented. Will you explain why? So you can see here various reasons reported for not implementation, with more frequently lack of time, cost, not adapted to the farm, and non-known advantages. And the farmer seems to be less convinced of the effectiveness of biosecurity, because you can see here the answer not useful with 4% for advisor versus 12% for farmers. And for the opinion on the efficiency, the third question in our questionnaire, the 70% of advisor answer that for a measure not always implemented on the farm, this measure would be efficient, versus 40% for farmers. So this is just some example of specific reasons reported by farmer and advisor for biosecurity measures here. For example, for the disinfection of vehicle before entering on the site, this is the obstacles mentioned by the farmer in blue, and then according to the advisor, the obstacles for them affecting farmers. So for the farmers, the reasons reported are take too much time, difficult because given the unknown arrival timing. According to the advisor, also take too much time, not enough train. They consider essential measure, but not awareness of the risk. For the washing of the hands before entering in the house. So according to the farmer, take too much time, forgetfulness, habits. And according to the advisor, take too much time also, no known advantages of the measure. They consider essential measure but often neglect. And for the domestic animal of the site, farmer reported cultural practice, habits, with low risk, low estimated risk, and on pest control also. And the advisor reported no known advantages and not enough advices. They consider important, but often habit and difficult to change on the farm. For the cleaning disinfection of the laundry tank after each collection, for the farmer, no known advantages, and they consider low estimated risk. And for the advisor, they reported take too much time, no known advantages, essential measure, but also underestimated risk. So this is for farmer and advisor. And now the result for the operators. So in the same way, you have the distribution of all the replies given by the operator and the implementation of the 55 biosecurity measures. So for most of the answer, biosecurity measures are declared always implemented by the operator. You can see here in green, 77% considering all the category of the operators. So we see here a high level of biosecurity declared by operator, but also with deficiency. So like farmer and advisor, we analyze here the biosecurity declared less implemented by the operator, but also on the 10 biosecurity measures less implemented. So this measure also grouped in 3 categories. The first one is about the measure also for entering on the site with the circulation, delimitation also of professional secure area, disinfection of the vehicles, the personnel, showering, washing hands, and the separation of the hygiene locks. Then the second group is related to the transport of poultry or eggs with the bacterial auto control of each cleaning disinfection of vehicle and equipment, the disinfection of the vehicle by the driver for enter on the farm, the planification of the transport, the single-use transport boxes, the clothes and footwear of the driver on the farm, and the cleaning disinfection of the vehicle after each transport. And then the last category is related to the general hygiene with cleaning and disinfection, bacterial auto control, and cleaning of and disinfection of the facility, material, concrete platform. And then the management of dead animal for slaughterhouse, rendering tank, the localization of rendering tank, and the cleaning disinfection of the rendering tank. So this is also the reason reported by the operator for not implemented this measure. So the most frequent answer reported by the operator are also lack of time, cost, but also not useful and often not adapted to the company. More frequently related to some excessive biosecurity measure in our questionnaire and often implemented only if outbreak or structural measures. So this is also some example of specific results for biosecurity measure. For example, for the disinfection of the vehicle before entering on the company, they reported take too much time and not enough train. They consider important measures to reduce the risk, but more often applied during episodic. For the personnel on visitor showering, also take too much time, not useful and not adapted to their company. They consider also important but often excessive measures because disposable clothes and shoes are often sufficient. And this measure will be more often applied during episodic. For the bacterial auto control of each cleaning disinfection of vehicle and equipment, they consider this measure too expensive, take too much time. They reported this measure with excessive frequency because internal control are important, but more often periodically, for example, weekly control. For the disinfection of the vehicle by the driver for each enter on the farm, they reported take too much time. They consider disinfection of wells decrease the risk, but more often applied if health issues, and also more often applied by the farmer before entering on the other side. So, in conclusion, this study highlights field-level opinion of a large number of farmers, advisors, and operators with regard to the implementation of biosecurity in poultry, considering the wide variety of poultry production in Europe. So, being an interview survey, it is important to consider the potential gap between statement made and what is actually applied. So, considering this limit, most of the replies are declared always implemented, however, with some deficiency. So to summarize, the main biosecurity item reported less implemented are related to the entry of personnel and vehicle on the site, the sanitary barrier with other animals, the general hygiene, and the external intervention on the farm and transport. So a range of progress is possible to improve compliance. And a large part of the reasons mentioned for not implementing the measure are related to the misunderstanding of the expected benefits of biosecurity, the lack of time, the lack of training on biosecurity, but also the cost of the measure. So the knowledge on biosecurity and the expected benefit are key factors for better compliance on the field. And this study highlights a room for improvement, recurring appropriate supporting measures for a better compliance in the application of biosecurity on the farm. So you can find in our article in press, in preventive veterinary medicine, so the article in press, about the interview study with the farmer that I have presented here today. And we are going to make in complementary a second article with advisor for training to compare with the farmer. Thank you.
Good morning, all. My name is Artur Wigoski. I'm from Warsaw University of Life Science, and in this part of the presentation, I would like to share with you some interesting observation and results from our data collection part, which refers to the supporting measures. That was really challenging for us to collect all the data and process and analyze it, because we use a semi-open questionnaire for that part to fulfill actually the overall objective. In our Netpoulsafe project, the definition which we use for supporting measure is all practices that aim at supporting the implementation of biosecurity. In our case, it was on farm or company. So for this purpose, we use actually the same questionnaire which we use for the data collection for biosecurity practices. But biosecurity practices data collection, that was part A, and supporting measures data collection, that was part B. So the number of questionnaires is the same. So we gathered 406 questionnaire in total from different group interviewed people, from farmer, advisors, and operators from different production types. So from breeders, layers, ducks, turkeys, and so on. From 7, each network facilitator was responsible for the data collection in each country. And today I would like to show you a global synthesis of this data. Of course, if we speak about the supporting measures, we propose in our questionnaire the list of the supporting measures which you can see here, which was divided on 8 parts, 8 categories. Like biosecurity trainings, education material, and so on. So that the first column, and the second one, specific supporting measures. And for each supporting measure, we set question, which I will show you in a second, because we would like to know the opinion of the interviewed people, whether this supporting measure, in their opinion, is successful or required. So that's the general criteria which we use in practice. So that's the question which we use in our questionnaire. So for the farmer and the operator, we ask them, according to this list of the supporting measures, in their opinion, if they think that this supporting measure, specific from the list, have already helped you to implement biosecurity measure on your farm or company in case of operators. And also we interview advisors with little different question, which we ask which supporting measure from the list have already helped the farmer to implement biosecurity measure on the farm. So that's very simple questions. However, that was the criteria which we use as a successful. So if the people ask mark in the questionnaire that this, in their opinion, that's the successful, they have to answer actually for this question. It means that this, in their opinion, they think that this supporting measure is successful. For required supporting measure criteria, we ask the people from in the questionnaire, in their opinion, which supporting measure from the list you would need to improve the implementation of the biosecurity measure on your farm or on your company. So that was another criteria, successful and required. And of course, in questionnaire, we have a lot of, let's say, no answers. So in general, people interview people mark that in their opinion, it's not relevant. They don't have opinion in that specific, they cannot answer for that specific question. So that's the general structure of our questionnaire. And in general, for the analysis, we try to answer the 4 main questions. First question, based on the gathered opinion of the interviewed people, are the all group production, they, let's say, perceive in the same way supporting measures from the list. So that was question 1. Whether the farmers, advisors, and operators as a group perceive specific supporting measure in similar way or the same, or there are some differences. Is there is some kind of preference for the communication and dissemination channels? So that's the main question which we try to answer during our global analysis. So first I would like to show you some results from the for the production types. So supporting measure in each poultry production. So that's the main, that's the graph which we present on your left. Again, a list of the supporting measure. And in each column, we have production types. And the green bar represents answer which indicate, in their opinion of the interviewed people, that they think that this supporting measure is successful. Salmon color bar is required, and the numbers indicate the percent of answers in each for each supporting. So when we look closer on the production, as usual, in general, so we can see a lot of similarities in the opinion, because when we make a list of the supporting measures as a top 5 supporting measures in a group of successful, I would like to show you the green circle. In each group of breeders, broilers, and others, the answer were quite similar. So the, let's say, top of the list, let's say, successful supporting measures, which was mentioned in our questionnaire, was the contact support by farm visiting by biosecurity advisor, biosecurity checks by stakeholders, conferences, attending people to conferences, webinars, or advisory meetings, and group discussion. So that's the top 4 or 5 supporting measures which were mentioned very often in our questionnaire. In each group, breeders and broilers. When we look closer on the required supporting measure, so the supporting measure which the farmer operators, farmer and advisors would need to improve the implementation of biosecurity. The most often one was financial support for biosecurity implementation, this red circle, advisor coaching methods, education materials, maybe in papers, and media like YouTube videos and so on. So that's the, let's say, top 5 of the list of the most, let's say, the most often answers in this supporting measure described as a required supporting measure. So that was the breeder broiler group, and for layer keeping cages, chicken layers, cages, and litter and free range, we have very similar gradation in the answers. So interviewed people say that for them, so far successful supporting measures, so far they help them implement, which help them implement supporting measure, that help them implement the biosecurity practices. That was again contact support by farm visiting, farm advisor, biosecurity check by government, and group discussion. So that's the similar gradation between this group production. And if we look on the required supporting measure, we can also see that financial support for biosecurity implementation is on the top of the list in this group. However, again, advisor coaching methods, that's the required supporting measure. So they would need this, in their opinion, they would need this supporting measure which help to implement some biosecurity measures, and also education models. That's the again top of the list in this production group. And for the ducks and turkeys, also the answer were quite similar, and the gradation of this supporting measure were also quite similar. So as you can see, on the top of the list was group discussion, biosecurity check by government, by stakeholders, and also contact support by farm visiting, so direct contact. And required supporting measures also, which was mentioned here in this group, was financial support, also organization of competition for best biosecurity for this duck group, duck farmers, and it was quite interesting for them, and group discussion. Again, so we have some, let's say, top 5 supporting measures which we describe as a successful or required. And for the operators, for 4 group of operators interviewed people, we interviewed people from egg collection facility, hatchery, supplier, and slaughterhouse, and also the answers, let's say, the list of the successful and required supporting measures was also quite similar. So on the top, we have group discussion, education modules, leaflet banners, posters also was mentioned, and again, biosecurity check by government, by stakeholders, support by biosecurity advisor, by contact support. That was the most often supporting measure mentioned as a successful in our questionnaire. When we look on the required support measure, again, financial support for biosecurity implementation was mentioned very often in our questionnaire, similar to biosecurity check by government, by stakeholders in egg collection facility in hatchery, and also videos was mentioned like an interesting required supporting measure for the interview people. Of course, when we look closer on the farmer, advisor, and operator group as a interview group of the interviewed people, also we observe some kind of similarities with the answers that were different people from different countries. However, the answers were quite similar, because when we gather all the results and we make a list of the most successful supporting measures and required, we also observe that the group discussion, attending to conferences, webinar, advisor meetings, education materials, biosecurity check by government, by stakeholders, and support by a biosecurity advisor were on the top of the list. The most often answered question it means that this the people they interviewed as a farmer, as one group, advisor and operators, they answer in similar way. So it means that they so far this supporting measure helped them to implement specific biosecurity measure. If we look on the required supporting measure, again, financial support of biosecurity implementation still is on the top of the list of the required supporting measures. However, again, advisor coaching methods, group discussion, education materials, and also education modules are mentioned as a required supporting measure, and was located on the top on the list. And again, when we gather all the data from our questionnaire, from the farmer, advisor, operator for all 460 questionnaire, we also observe quite interesting gradation in the supporting measure, because as you can see here, support by the biosecurity advisor as a contact support, it's on the top on the list. Then biosecurity check by stakeholders, the group discussion, also regulation setup supporting biosecurity implementation, biosecurity check by government, education material and paper, also quite interesting for them, and conducting information campaign promoting biosecurity, so conferences, webinars, and seminars are also supporting measures which so far help the farmers, advisor and operator to implement some biosecurity measure. So if we look again on the required supporting measure, we can see that again financial support for the implementation of the biosecurity is on the top on the list. However, other supporting measures were also mentioned in our questionnaire, like advisor coaching methods, group discussion, live workshops, education modules, and support by biosecurity advisor by farm visits, regular farm visits. That's the required supporting measure. It means that the farmer advisor, the farmer and operators, they would need to implement and help to implement the biosecurity measure on their farm or company. So again, that's the short list of this top 5 successful supporting measures. It means that when you make this list of the most often mentioned supporting measure as a successful, we got again group discussion, education material, biosecurity check, regulation setup for supporting biosecurity implementation, and on-farm visiting. So that's the list of the top 5 supporting measure described as a successful, and top 5 required supporting measure: biosecurity training, exposure visit at well-organized farm, group discussion, live workshops, education modules, and of course financial support here is on the bottom of the list. However, in the questionnaire, most people, let's say, indicate, so that will be good supporting measure for them. So as you can see, this preference is more individualized and preferably on-site theoretical and practical courses, workshops, and direct meeting with the advisor. So that's the general preference. Also, we perform short comparison of the results, and which based on the results which we gather from different countries, from different 7 partners. If we ask about the, again, successful and required supporting measures of the green blocks, we present top 5, let's say, as a supporting measure described as a successful or required, and the numbers indicate the actual place of this supporting measures. So when we look on the successful supporting measure mentioned in opinion, considered as a successful supporting measure, support via biosecurity advisor, contact support by farm visit. So that's the supporting measure which was mentioned in the top of the list in each country. Also, group discussion also is important with the supporting measure which was mentioned as a successful in countries. And also the biosecurity check by stakeholders. That's some kind of interesting similarity between the answer when we gather the data from each specific country. If we look on the required supporting measures, again, financial support for biosecurity implementation, it was mentioned very often in the question and in each country. So as you can see, there is a green block in each country. However, other required supporting measures, as you can see here, it's exposure visit at well-organized farm, field trip, also live workshops, also education materials. There are some kind of similarities with the answer when we gather the data from each country. And also we perform analysis in direction and observation about preferred communication and dissemination channels for farmers, advisors, and operators. And for each specific group production, we have observed some similarities as well as some differences. So if we look closer on the farmer and advisor on the answers from each group, for breeders, broilers, layers, ducks, and turkeys, group discussion, that was the most preferred communication dissemination channel for this production. And also contact support by biosecurity advisor. So all production type indicate that this one is quite interesting. Communication dissemination channel, however, for this group production as well as for operators, the least preferred communication channels is social media groups, as well as gadgets. So that's the case which was mentioned in the questionnaires. However, there were not much people answer that this is interesting, some communication dissemination channels. When we look on the farmer, advisor, and operators, you can see this very similar gradation as we speak about the preferred communication dissemination channel, because group discussion, all farmers, advisors, and operators let's say see that it has interesting communication dissemination channel, as well as biosecurity check by stakeholders, and also this support by a biosecurity advisor by contact direct support. So that's the group of the most preferred communication dissemination channel, and also this farm group of farmers, advisor, and operator indicate that the least preferred communication dissemination channel is social media groups and gadgets. So that's the general observation. And when we finish this analysis, we use this important, interesting information to create our dissemination material, which will be presented later during this day. And also it helps us to select specific supporting measures for the testing, for the validation phase on the pilot farms. So that was the very important part of the project. Today there is not with us Matthias Del Pont from NBT, but he also works on a quite important part of the project, because they did Matthias and his team did analysis of existing biosecurity databases, so identification analysis of poultry biosecurity databases, and from this part of the project, you can find more information on this publication, which we have already published last year, monitoring biosecurity in poultry production, an overview of databases reporting biosecurity compliance from 7 European countries. So in this part, they create a dedicated questionnaire for identification of the database, and then after identification, they also collect some data for for analysis. Of course, not all databases was possible to analyze because problems with confidentiality. However, they also performed quite interesting analysis because they identify of the most common low and high compliance practices. So when we look closer on this, say, problems in this implementation, they observe that there are some issues with the clean and dirty zones in the farms inside the hygiene logs. So based on the database which all partners provide to this analysis, they observe that there's some issues with that the outside of barns rarely paved and clean, outside the limitation of the farm is really a problem, and some breaches in hygiene laws. Some breaches in hygiene laws because not only the farmer himself, the staff and visitor didn't follow the specific rules for the hygiene laws. Downtime between flocks was regularly judged as too short. Not the farmer responsibility because it depends on the situation, depends on the integration actually, and so on. And concerning visitor access, there is also some issues that minimum of 12 hours of downtime between visits is rarely some good news that the carcass management showed good practices. Daily checks on carcass in the barns. However, there is some problems or some, let's say, breaches in cleaning and disinfection of the rendering hub after the rendering track has left. So that's the observation from the questionnaire, and also breaches in equipment management practices. So flow with the equipment between zones within the same farm, and also when equipment shared between farms, not always clean and disinfect when it's back. So that's some kind of interesting observation. In general, different requirements in different contexts depending on the farm type and the risk analysis. So if you would like to read more details about this part about this database analysis, you can enter to this find this publication. You can find more data. That will be all. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, good morning. I am R.P. Amarraj. I am a PhD student from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Ghent University, Belgium. I'm also the network facilitator representing Belgium for the Netpoulsafe project. So about this presentation today on what implementing supporting measures taught us, it will be divided into two parts. So I will give an in-depth introduction and the methodologies. That will be the first part. And the second part about the outcomes of what was implemented and the cost analysis will be presented by a colleague from ILBO. So in work package 3, which was about the evaluation of supporting measures to improve biosecurity, the whole work package was basically divided into 4 main tasks. The first task was to develop new scoring systems for 5 different poultry species, namely turkeys, ducks, breeders, and free-range broiler and free-range layers. For this task, we first invited poultry specialists across the 7 participating countries, and with the help of them, we developed questionnaires individually for the 5 poultry species. And further, we ranked or graded the different measures that were included in the questionnaires, and this scoring or this weightage was done at the level of the questions and at the level of the categories into which the different questions were grouped. Finally, the scoring system was built in Excel and then online. And in mid-2022, we launched the system on the biotech website. So the website now you have all the surveys, and they're also made available in the 7 languages of the partner countries involved in the project. Up until 2023, you can see in the graph that there are about nearly 400 farms that are using biochecks
to examine or measure the farm biosecurity status. And from what I saw last week on the website for 2024, the Turkey reports have, or the Turkey entries have increased to more than 200. So this tool is not just for the consortium, or it's not just used by the countries that are involved in the project, but it goes beyond that. Because Portugal, which was not included in the project, has been using Turkey, and they are, I think from the figures that you see here, they are now the top users of the Turkey surveys. And Finland, on the other hand, was also a big user of the Turkey and the breeder survey. So this tool is not specifically designed for a project or for a country or for a region or for just for the European Union, but it's something that can be used worldwide and for different kind of production systems. So now we complete the poultry species. We have the broiler layer and the 5 new species, and we also have a new survey for the backyard for the low-income countries. The second part of the project, or the work package 3 task, was the specifications of the validation trees. In this phase, each country chose or decided which supporting measure they will now test in their pilot farms. So for Belgium and Spain, it was on-farm coaching. For Poland, it was workshops. For France, some pilot farms underwent participative group meetings, and in some it was individual coaching. In Italy, it was a combination of virtual farm tour plus group discussion and on-farm coaching. And also in Netherlands, it was a combination of online sector meetings and online coaching. And finally, in Hungary, it was on-farm coachings and trainings that were implemented on the pilot farms. This part of the task was also to decide on how to start with implementing. So we use the biocheck because this will give you a report indicating all the weaknesses in the farm, and that we used as a starting point to advise, or coach, or train the participants. And also because it's possible on the website to redo the survey and identify the trajectory of the farm scores. With the tool, we are able to evaluate the biosecurity status before and after implementing the supporting measure. In addition, we used the ATCAR. The ATCAR is actually a profiling technique to understand perceptions of participants. So this was earlier used in human medicine and also in veterinary medicine to understand perception of producers towards antimicrobial usage. We simply adapted it, and to this we added some guideline interview questions from a French project called the Partage, and together we used the 3 tools as a starting point, and also to evaluate the progress of the implementation phase. The third and the most important part of the task was the actual execution of the implementation of the supporting measures, and this started with recruiting pilot farms where we actually tested the different supporting measures. So every country had their own number of poultry farms, from broilers to layers to breeders, turkeys, ducks, and also free-range production. The ATCAR is simply a profiling technique, and in the beginning we are going to only evaluate the first 4 elements of the ATCAR, and this is basically the awareness of the farmer's understanding of the term biosecurity. His or her desire means the willingness or the motivation to make a change. And knowledge refers to the skill set that they have to implement a certain measure, or the tricks they are aware of. And the ability, it shows all the resources that they possess to do the change. This is also a scoring system where you grade them from 1 to 5, and any score 3 or less than that means this is going to block the change process. About 155 farms were recruited in the beginning as pilot farms for the study, and in about 10% of the farms, awareness was lacking, meaning that they were not aware that, about the benefits or the effectiveness of biosecurity and about the economic benefits that it can have on the farm. In about 15% of the farms, desire was lacking, which reflects on their lack of motivation. In about 21% of the farms, knowledge was lacking. So the main focus of the network facilitator or the coach was here to impart better knowledge on biosecurity to these 33 farmers. And finally, ability was lacking in about 20% farmers, and meaning that it is reflecting on the lack of the possibilities or the opportunities that they have to comply with good biosecurity. So when compiling all the results that we had, we analyzed it for the 155 farmers, and it was obvious that in breeders and in hatchery, these scores will be higher because of the existing high biosecurity levels. And also statistically, when we did the analysis and compared for most of the elements, hatcheries and breeding companies, the scores were higher than the meat poultry. Coming to the implementation and evaluation of supporting measures individually in each country. For France, it was group discussion and individual coaching. In the beginning, 21 farmers were recruited, but only 16 completed. A few of them had to quit in between the study. 11 of the 16 recruited farmers made improvements following the recommendations of the coach. In Poland, 18 farms were recruited for the study, 17 completed, and of the 17 farms, in 11 farms, we were able to see changes made post-intervention. In Hungary, 28 farms were recruited, 27 of them completed the study, and of these 27 farms, 18 farms made visible improvement in the biosecurity status. In Netherlands, 17 farms were recruited, 13 of them completed the study, and 10 of these 13 farms made changes following the recommendations of the coach. In Italy, 29 farms were recruited at the start, 26 of them completed the study, and of 26, 20 of them made changes or improvements in the daily practices. In Spain, again, 22 farms were recruited at the start, but only 20 completed the study, and 13 out of the 20 farms made changes. Finally, in Belgium, 15 farms were recruited at the beginning of the study, 13 lasted till the end of the study, 2 had dropped off, and 12 of the 13 farms made improvement in or changes in the farm biosecurity. So, I have indicated here the number of or the different production systems, but because of time, I'm not going to say which farms were included. When we compare the EDCAR scores measured before and after the implementation, this is what we found. For the analysis, we are going to use only 130 farms because we did not include hatchery in the analysis because no implementation of supporting measure was done in hatcheries. So we excluded 10 farms, and there were about 15 farms that dropped out at the end of the project. So when comparing the scores before and after intervention, we could see some improvement in scores with respect to awareness, desire, and knowledge. And from the EDCAR, we were able to find that on the whole, about 57 participants had at least one element that was being a barrier to the change process. And a very small number of participants, about 3%, all 4 elements were lacking or scored less than 3. And these were farmers that required more attention. There's one more element that I did not mention in the beginning because this is something that is going to be evaluated under the implementation of change. So this is the reinforcement, and it refers to the sustainability of the change. After 6 months of either coaching or training, we scored the farmer for reinforcement, and on an average for all the farmers who completed the study, it was about 3.7. It was also a comment, feedback, and opinion that this has to be repeated again with a duration of maybe another 6 months or another year to see exactly if the reinforcement scores are good or bad. Finally, coming to the results of the biosecurity scores of all the pilot farms were analyzed. Only 145 farms again, because there was no biocheck for the hatcheries and they were excluded from the analysis. The external biosecurity score was 74%, the internal was about 78. The internal scores were more than the external, and this is a common reporting that several researchers have already in the past have talked about. It's possible that the internal activities of the farm are under the control of the farmer, and that could be a reason why internal scores are always higher than the external. For the comparison between scores before and after intervention, there were only 128 farms for analysis because we excluded 10 hatcheries. We excluded 15 farms that dropped out, and there were 2 farmers who continued with the project, but they refused to do the biocheck at the end of the project. So on comparison as well, we found slightly higher scores of biosecurity after the implementation of supporting measures in every partner country. So there were several negative aspects that we faced during the course of this task. I spoke about 7 partners in the project, but we had 2 other partners, which was avian influenza and COVID. This made our tasks very difficult because recruiting farmers and keeping them for about a year it was very challenging. They were already busy with managing their ongoing issues. It was a problem to contact them physically and to speak with them. Everyone was scared of disease transmission, both for humans and birds. So this was a very big challenge, farm recruitment, and also asking for the time because of the time period of this whole task for about a year, and also each individual work in this work package. It involves data collection, interviews, the filing of the farmers, and then finally coaching them or training them. So all of this is going to take a lot of time, and this is going to be discussed in detail by my colleague here. You will see how long it took for each farm. So that was another challenge. And then the evaluation period was only about 6 months, and for some farms it was even less than 6 months because we recruited them very late in the course of the project. And if the period was a little longer, maybe we could have looked into the farm parameters, the mortality or other production parameters to see or to gauge the improvements that took place. And finally, the cost of implementing these measures was also a challenge, and this is going to be also discussed in the next presentation. But with whatever limited resources and things we had from the project, we converted the negatives into positives. People who refused to meet us in person were contacted through phone calls by the network facilitators. We were chasing them repeatedly to evaluate them, to have a follow-up if things are happening as per the recommendations. And using tools like the biocheck or the ATCAR, it can give you the reports that will help you to give targeted advice. So we cannot look at the very big picture here, but based on the farm scores that are very weak or poor, we are able to focus only on those aspects. And finally, this study, I think, is the first time that different kinds of new measures, it was possible to, or it gave the opportunity to use all these at the farm level, both individually and at the group level. Some farmers were not very comfortable in a group discussion. They were not ready to share opinions, so they went into the on-farm individual coaching. And because the project also started in an era where the digital world was growing because of Corona, we converted a lot of physical meetings into online meetings with the farmers and with the other stakeholders and veterinarians. And we kind of took the challenge and improvised when it was needed. There was a lot of feedback that we got from the participants. They said that these supporting measures were helpful. They trusted the process. They trusted the obedience of stakeholders during a group discussion. They had this time to rethink and identify what went wrong in their farms. They understood the benefits of biosecurity. Although a few farmers were reluctant to give their opinions in the beginning, in case of a group discussion or a coaching, at the end they came up with positive feedbacks, and the farmers appreciated that biosecurity has good benefits, and they were convinced that with better biosecurity there's going to be better performance. And there was one other comment or feedback that we got, that this intervention that we did should not stop at the level of the farm, because there's so many people involved from the outside, like the cattle crew, the feed companies, the drivers, and it's important to impart the same knowledge and same instructions to them as well. So this is how we changed all our negatives into positives, and we saw improvements in scores, both biosecurity and in the farmers' perceptions. And I can safely say that supporting measures were very effective in changing farmers' mindset and also in improving the biosecurity levels. The last part of this work package was the evaluations of the actions and improvements that are made. For this, data collection was done about the technical farm parameters, and also cost analysis was done. This will be continued by Helena from ILVO. She's here. So thank you for your attention. Please put your questions and I'm very happy to answer them for you.
Good morning, I'm Elena. And I would like to present to you the results that we that are missing, the little missing piece that RT was referring to. This little missing piece is actually not so little. There was a lot of participation from, of course, from our network facilitators, but also a lot of farmer participation that was crucial in gathering this data. So I'll guide you through a little bit what we did. Again, revising why it's important for costs and costs to be estimated and taken into account when we're thinking about biosecurity. So we'll go a little bit into the data collection. We'll talk about how the economic impact of poultry diseases could be possibly estimated. Then we'll go into the actual project results and the costs of biosecurity implementation, not just from the biosecurity measures standpoint, but also from the supporting measures standpoint. I will briefly discuss how this is integrated with the AdCar and the biocheck results, and then I'll go a little bit more into what will be eventually presented by our coordinator on the impressions of the network facilitators. So an important thing that I think it has been mentioned, but maybe I'll just bring back the attention to that, is that poultry farmers want to make their production cost effective. And this means that they have to do with the less losses possible, of course, and also keeping healthy standards. So what is the value? The economic value of this is that we also have to think about the poor biosecurity increasing the risk of exposure and farm circulation of pathogens such as avian influenza and salmonella. So with that in mind, we started collecting data on the economic benefits of the implementation of the supporting measures. Our initial idea was to evaluate the partial cost effectiveness of the supporting measures. And the supporting measures, I should remind you, are basically the coaching and group discussion and all the varieties that were done in the countries that were participating. And we wanted to look into the cost of these supporting measures against the observed change in biosecurity compliance based on the adapted biocheck scoring tool and the AdCar. And we also wanted to look at the combined cost effectiveness of both the cost of the supporting measures themselves and the additional farm costs. So everything that was done on the farm to increase biosecurity compliance. And again, looking at how the variation in the biocheck scoring tool and the AdCar was being taken up. So in practice, this meant collecting all the costs and time associated with the implementation of the training on biosecurity measures, and also the perception of the producer in relation to this economic impact. So for that, we collected the personnel costs of the network facilitators, the farmers, and everybody involved. And these costs were hourly salaries and the amount of time that they did on implementing these changes. And then we also add other costs, so material costs, transportation costs, etc. So as we knew that there was also a significant component of perception, attitude, and that is harder to assess just by cost, we also wanted to understand from the farmer's perspective if they felt that there was an actual improvement in the farm. We also asked the veterinarian if they felt that there was an actual improvement in the farm. And then also we wanted to have an idea, a subjective idea, whether the farmer felt that it was easier to implement the biosecurity measures after following the trainings. And then, of course, finally, we wanted to understand how the farmer felt about being ready to fight an outbreak in case it would happen one. So for the methodology to study the impacts, we try to collect from the different countries how which kind of subsidies were being given, what kind of support was being given per country. And we also looked at how the different outbreaks had cost in terms of, well, financially to that particular sector in the different countries. So I will not go into a lot of detail. This will eventually be ready for, well, it will be in a separate publication that is pending at the moment, but it will also be present in our deliverable. Here we saw that different countries, so for instance, in the Netherlands, you see that 2.849 million euros were lost in 2020 due to disease outbreaks. This is and the sources can be found here in different according to the different countries. In some cases, the study is still in progress because a lot of the data is being released as the time is passing. But this is more or less to give you an idea of some of these materials were then integrated into our knowledge reservoir so that the farmers themselves are also aware of how much money they could be potentially losing by not taking biosecurity implementation and standards into account. So finally, I would like to dial back into the main goal of our project, which was to judge the variation and well, the cost effectiveness basically on the different farms that participated in this project. Unfortunately, we had a very hard time collecting these technical parameters for various reasons. Some of the reasons were mentioned by RT earlier. But one of the, so of course we had outbreak situations, we had influenza problems, we had COVID problems, but we also had a limited amount of time to study this change in technical parameters. And very often we had farmers that didn't feel comfortable sharing their data. From the data we did collect, we had a large percentage of farmers that were collecting AMU data. And they didn't use antimicrobials during the period of observation. But the most important conclusion we could come to is that there was no change in the technical parameters observed during the observation time. Which brings us to some difficulties if we want to actually do a proper cost effectiveness assessment, because we have no way to evaluate how the inputs were becoming, how the outputs were becoming more, let's say, more valuable. That being said, we thought that it might be also interesting to share with you what kind of farmers were participating in this study. This also leads to a certain level of, participatory bias, because obviously the farmers that participated in this project might not be representative of the farmer population in general in Europe or their respective countries. But in any case, we found that most of the farmers were between 35 and 50 years old. They were male, and they were mostly slightly satisfied with their farming, which I think is positive somehow, although it was slightly satisfied. So from the farmer's perception, the survey that I was telling you earlier, we ranked their perceptions from a scale from 1 to 5, in which 1 is they have no improvement, or they saw no improvement, 2, they saw a lot of improvement in the top end of the scale. So for the first scoring question, we noticed that most farmers didn't see any particular improvement in technical parameters. So even though we were not able to collect those technical parameters, the farmers themselves reported there was very little change in terms of technical parameters on farm. Veterinarians and farm advisors were largely in accordance with this, so they also didn't find any particular change over the course of the study. On the other hand, most of the farmers did feel that it was easier to implement biosecurity after following the trainings and after doing the coaching sessions. So this was definitely a positive, it was perceived as positive for the farmers. And also most farmers felt that at least at the end of the project, they were sufficiently informed about how to do how to control the outbreaks on the farms, what kind of support they would get from governments and other institutions in case they had an outbreak. So this is, a very brief summary of all the costs we collected. There was, of course, this is the result of many costs that were evaluated. As you see, in most cases, so in a lot of these elements have over 10 different types of changes that were done. There was a lot of variability in the changes, of course, but we see that on average, the amount of time that was spent per biosecurity measure implemented ranged between, well, the average is about 5 hours, 6 hours, but you see that it ranges from 20 hours or 23.7 hours all the way to almost no time for water and feed management changes. Because in biosecurity, we also include, of course, management as a component. And sometimes management is just a matter of mindset and behavior change, let's say, and doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money. So this is one of the things that we wanted to create awareness to our farmers, is that not every biosecurity change has to cost a lot of money. And you can see from this gathering, and this is, by the way, from all the countries that we gathered information, so the 7 countries, different regions also within the different countries. So again, to talk a little bit about the time spent in hours. So the actual mean was about 2.7 hours for the whole study. We have a very big standard deviation, and of course we have a lot of variability. So we have up to 100 hours being spent on some of these biosecurity changes, because we had also infrastructure changes. You know, we also had farmers that replaced completely some of their farm layouts, or they installed washing and other basically washing stops on their farm, or they rearranged completely the layout of the farm. And of course these changes will cost a lot of money, but on average you see that it was not as expensive as a lot of farmers may say. So this is one of the important things we wanted to bring about, is that a lot of farmers will probably dismiss some of the recommendations that are made based on the fact that they perceive that it will cost a lot of money. But in fact, we here show that it doesn't cost as much as they often assume. So for the cost of the supporting measures, this was slightly more difficult to standardize across the countries, because as you know, as Artie shown before, we did a lot of different types of trainings and a lot of different types of approaches. So in some cases we had the costs of the farmers and the cost of the network facilitators being an important part in the equation. And in other cases we did not, because for instance, the farmers would be traveling to a location and the network facilitators would be there. In other cases, we had the network facilitators going to the farm. And in other cases still, countries such as the Netherlands, for instance, a lot of the facilitation was done remotely. And in that case, you have a different type of cost. So we just wanted to, at this moment, we are still analyzing this data. So the time, you see there's a lot of variability, these are a lot of variability in the amount of time that is being spent by the network facilitators and the farmers. So there's a lot of variability also in the different approaches that we can take. And we are still trying to find a way to aggregate this data in a way that could be then used for policy making. At the moment, we can see, for instance, here for the Italian groups, that most of the time that was being spent for the farmer and the network facilitators was somewhat standardized, because they follow a very strict protocol. But in Poland, for instance, a lot of the time was spent in these group discussions. So also the farmers had to take the time to transport themselves to the group discussion. And this is also something that potentially can be an hindrance or not, depending on how these things are organized. Then, for instance, in Hungary, there was a lot of time being spent for farmers and network facilitators because of this particular type of group discussion that was implemented. In Spain, another issue was that a lot of the distances that have to be covered. So in Spain, as you might be aware, is a country that has very dispersed units sometimes, and then you have to take a lot of time to go from one unit to the other. So you spend a lot of time in the car, and this can be potentially a cost that has to be taken into account. So just to dial back again to what Artie presented earlier. So the change in biosecurity scores that we saw was actually quite small, but we have to think that the biosecurity change may not betray per se an actual increase and benefit for the well-being of the farm themselves. So we see that for chicken farms, on average, the biosecurity change was 1.6. And then for ducks, it was considerably larger. And for turkeys, it was smaller. But then we have to think, what does this biosecurity change meant for the farmer? And this is where I was initially talking about the perception of the farmer themselves about the change in biosecurity. For ADCAR, RT was presenting on the averages per before and after, but here where we present is actually the change. So how much percentage change was there after the implementation of our project? And on average, we had very small change on the ADCAR. So the farmers themselves did not, our researchers didn't perceive this as a very big change. However, we have to think about how these percentual points actually mean in terms of application of the measures on the farm. And as Artie showed earlier, there was significant changes throughout the project. So let's then try to conclude a little bit, make sense of this data. So to simulate the implementation of biosecurity through coaching, facilitators and coaches would usually require about 8 hours of active involvement per farm, let's say per farmer unit. The contact times, they vary between 5 to 14 hours. And the farmers would require about 6 hours of contact with the coach themselves. For the group discussion, on the other hand, the lectures would require less time from the lecturers, let's say, but the farmers would have to devote more time for the meeting, to attend these meetings. And in general, I think it's quite a large success that at least in the farms that we were visiting, we led to some considerable improvement in several different aspects of biosecurity. So some more conclusions. We understand the coaching and group discussion, they require a different amount of time and preparation from the facilitators and the farmer. However, we think that on average, 8 hours is a small amount of time, considering that there were a lot of improvements being made. And this is divided by multiple times through the contact in the farm. And of course, it makes it easier to involve the farmer. So on the psychological impact of the improvement, of course, we did not look into the psychological profiles. We did not go into that level of measurements of the perceptions. We stayed a little bit on the superficial side, but it was, and it's not reported here, it will be in verbatim in our deliverable as well. And we will, in our upcoming publication, we're also planning on having some verbatim statements. The farmer was on average more confident and relaxed following the coaching. And we believe that we therefore create a virtuous cycle in which once you have the improvement in biosecurity, other good improvements will occur, and also the state of mind of the farmer will become more likely to adopt new measures and also follow the guidelines of coaches or veterinarians or other advisory people. Of course, we know that evaluating these costs is still very partial because we were not able to have the technical data which would allow us to do a true cost effectiveness. We do see a benefit associated with increased ADCAR and biocheck scores, even though these changes might not be very big. They are for the perception of the farmers, they felt they were somewhat improved. And finally, we consider that effectiveness is the adoption of these biosecurity measures. So in most farms, after the intervention, there was a good level of implementation of biosecurity. So I'll start giving in a little bit of the passing to Justine in a second. But basically, what we also discussed was, okay, how do the network facilitators feel themselves about this approach, coaching and group discussion? So we felt that for our network facilitators, it was very useful, the coaching, to discuss specific issues, to co-create, to have a profiling of the people and involve the right measures for the right person. And it was easier to stay open-minded and flexible. But it would be important to organize the timing so that you do not lose structure, and you would be advised to follow the plan, do, check, act approach that has been also disseminated in other projects. Finally, for the group discussion, we think that the group discussion would make it more accessible, more acceptable, particularly for people that will not easily change. So coaching is easier, let's say, in our perception, for the people that are more willing to change, or that are going to only have to change smaller things. But the people that do not want to change, the group discussion was preferable somehow. We need more time to implement it. And of course, it works with small groups. Of course, if you have a very big group, you might have a lot of problems with group discussion. And you also have to take into account that group discussion will lead to co-creation within the peer group, which might also be positive for farmers, because a lot of farmers are feeling left out, are feeling disenfranchised by government, and are feeling disenfranchised by multiple structures of power. And by having this co-creation and peer-to-peer discussions, there might be a stimulation of that, and they might have a feeling of belonging, which might in turn leads to a better adoption of the biosecurity recommendations. So in general, it's basically, it will be important to motivate these reluctant people by this group discussion. And in literature, there's of course a lot of benefits being described by group discussion and group therapy, let's say. And this is one form of employing that in animal health. And sometimes we can go further with group discussion than with coaching if we don't have a lot of qualified coaches, which is very often a problem because it's a very specific line of work, and you might not have those people in your country. And then in that case, maybe group discussion might be more advisable. Right, so for the general discussions, a lot of this is available in our knowledge reservoir. We believe that group discussion and coaching could be potentially nice solutions to change the behavior when it comes to biosecurity adoption. And we think that this data might be used, or definitely will be very useful to advise policymakers and other regional governments to adopt and change biosecurity. All right, that's it.
Hello. Hello to you all. Please find your seat again. We're going to start with the round table session from today, I would say. First, I want to introduce the network facilitators of each country. So I will give them a quick word about their name, their country, their organization, to have a quick overview about who they are. And as you see, we have one joiner online. It's pretty big today in the screen, so you can't miss her. We don't forget to build it, but let's start with it.
My name is Artur Zidowski. I'm from Warsaw University of Life Science in Poland. I work in a division of alien exotic animal transmission.
Hi, my name is Aitor Devesa. I'm veterinarian in part of the project in the Spanish case, both in the government organization.
Hi, I am Justine Millier, and I work at ITAMI, which is the French Technical National Institute for Poultry Farming, and I represent the French network.
Hello, everybody. My name is Annie Spaans. I'm a network facilitator from the Netherlands. I work for ZLTO, Farmers Association.
Hello, my name is Laszlo Kovac. I'm the representative of the Hungarian team. I'm the employee of the University of Veterinary Medicine Budapest at the Department of Animal Hygiene as a mobile clinic.
Hello, I'm Alessandra Piccirillo. I work here at the University of Padua, and I'm the network facilitator for Italy.
Okay, and then we have Hilde online.
Hilde?
Yes, so I'm not the network facilitator, but I assisted Arti in this project. So I'm Hilde van Meerhagen. I work for Vetworks as a poultry consultant.
Welcome to you all. My name is Eva Leesjes. I'm a colleague of Monique, so I'm also from the Netherlands, and I will moderate this roundtable today. First of all, I want to say if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the Slido. We have Suzanne, and she is moderating the questions, so if they are relevant at the right moment, she will interrupt us. And otherwise, we will come back to it at the end of the session. What we are going to do today, we want to show the journey this project has taken the last couple of years. So we want to describe how the ACUS is built, but also the challenges we were facing and the solutions were found, and maybe some tips and tricks for the future. So I want to give a few examples about the ACUS of the poultry sector in some of the countries we have here today. And first, I want to start with my own country, with Aniek. Maybe you can start with the session and show us how the ACUS is built in the Netherlands and how the poultry sector is organized.
Yes, happy to do it. Maybe good to mention before we start that you can make use of the Slido in case you have questions. Also, in order to probably try to answer the questions during our roundtable session. So yeah, for the Netherlands, the ACUS network, or actually, well, the biggest stakeholder network. Is he? No? Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
No, it's this one. Okay. So for the Netherlands, we thought about the stakeholder mapping. That's what we did, and we tried to involve all most important value chain actors of the poultry sector in the Netherlands. And we had a collaboration together with our lobby organizations and interbranch organizations such as LTO and Avinet, and also GD Animal Health was involved in this project. And of course, as we are a lobby organization, many lobby ACUS were represented in our network. And in addition, also a lot of farmers, of course, were involved as we are a farmers association. Then, based on the project activities, we try to involve all different kinds of stakeholders, such as veterinarians and advisors during the interviews, as well as in the validation phase, in order to give support to the farmers from all different kinds of value chain actors. But in addition, we also look further in the value chain, such as educational bodies, slaughterhouses, and these kinds of stakeholders. I think that's short from the Netherlands. Yeah.
Now I know from this is hello. Ben the meeting. No, there is a smaller. I can use my voice. That's really loud to me. So. Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay, I will speak loudly if the microphone is working. That's one of my biggest achievements in life. Okay, I know from the Netherlands that we work with private farmers, but there are also countries with integrations in the poultry farm, so farmers in contract. So I want to ask one of the network facilitators who is working with farmers in contract, if that's any different to the ACUS stakeholder network, or if there are any other stakeholders that I didn't present. Is there someone from Spain or Italy, Poland? I guess you guys are working with integrations. Yeah.
So yes, as you mentioned, for example, in the Japanese ACUS, is the important ACUS are the main integrated companies, because if you engage like integrated companies, in our case, we work with the most important integrated companies in Spain. So you can engage the mills, the slaughterhouse, the hatcheries, the breeders, the farmers, because they control the part of this farm. So I think it's in the integrated company and not in the other companies that you have this integrated company as well. It works. Also, the veterinarians are part of this company, so I think it's we're talking about this good supporting all this network is already created at least in its company. I don't know in other countries.
Yes, I may speak for Polish situation because in Poland, in case of poultry production, we have huge poultry production, and we also have a couple of big integration which are working with poultry farms. However, if we speak of the biosecurity implementation, biosecurity checking, in our situation, main advisors in that field, that's poultry veterinarians. So in general, in our AKIs, we disseminate our materials. We organize a lot of trainings for the veterinarians as first, because we focus on the training advisors, and we know that they spread this information later to the farmers. Of course, that's the most important dissemination channel for us, because we know that because the poultry veterinarians free practice or as a private organization, they have a huge impact on the biosecurity implementation as a support, as a coach in that field for the farmers. So that's our strategy. Of course, our AKIs, which we built, was because we are university. So we actually update the AKIs which we had previously, because during previous projects, during organizing conferences, we had a lot of contacts, and we still use these contacts as an example for cost better, because we still ask some questions. We send the questionnaires to the members about AKIs, the specific questionnaire which we use in our cost better project. So we still keep our AKIs network alive.
Does anyone want to add to this?
Just a few words from Italy. Okay. The structure of the poultry production in Italy is very similar to the Spanish one. We have integrated companies, and we enrolled all the integrated companies in our AKIs, but beside the integrated companies, we also enrolled Una Italia, that is an association representing the integrated companies at the national level. And beside involving all our stakeholders in the activities of Netpoulsafe, we also asked those people to give us expert opinions or feedback on the activities we were creating and disseminating.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Now I want to discuss the.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Do you want to add? Yeah, go on.
Additional information about Hungary. So in Hungary, the Hungarian poultry sector, it consists of lots of big integrator companies, and we involve most of them in the project, and the little part of the other partners, farmers, individual partners, but the bigger part is the integrator companies. So our AKIS members consists of lots of integrator companies and some of individual producers. And besides of these, we have drawn primarily on the partner contacts of the two Hungarian institutes, the MATE and the UNIVAT. And subsequently, we also involved in the project the academic institutes, the health authorities, and also the Poultry Product Council, because the Hungarian Poultry Product Council is the most, the biggest and the most open show, up to date partners. And it was an advantage to get the contact with them and involve and get data from the Hungarian Project Council. That's all from the Hungarian side.
Yeah, so from Belgium, we are not integrated. Our farmers like to be independent. They like to choose their feed mill, their hatchery. So our ACIS is very much based on an association that is, or an organization that covers the whole poultry chain, which is called VPEC, where we have the farmers, the hatcheries, the feed mills, the slaughterhouses, the service companies, and the catching crews, the vaccination crews. So we have regular meetings with those, with that association. Sometimes in times of crisis, for avian influenza, other things, but we do have a good network. We know who to contact, and for the project also, very much based on personal contacts, we managed to get everybody behind to work to collaborate for this project.
Thank you. Someone wants to add something before you go?
Yeah, maybe the last one. Complete.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, for Prince, it's a bit different. We have different types of production systems and types. So some farmers were integrated, others were well, private. They were working alone. So we were able to, in our ACIS, gather different types of farmers. We work also with direct selling farms, so in general, very small farms that had different issues in terms of biosecurity than the integrated company. This is a different way of working. It was very interesting to have both and to be able to work and see the different challenges that they faces in general with biosecurity. So that's for the farmers, and otherwise in our whole ACIS, we were able to gather different types as well of organization, whether they were protection organizations, also governmental parts with official rights services. The main group, also our scientific and technical working group with our partners here, represent a big part of our ACIS as well. So yeah, we had many different types of people in our ACIS, which is pretty cool.
Perfect. Now we have a quick overview about the structure of the ACIS in different countries. Then I want to discuss the challenges we faced during this project, because a lot of aspects, as a few mentioned before, have influenced the way we had to organize this project. And so we want to talk about the social aspects and also the technical and economical aspects. Starting with the social aspects. Can anybody tell us something about engaging with ACIS, or maybe parties who were kind of difficult to engage during this project to get proactive? Maybe somebody can answer.
Yeah, indeed. He's working. Yeah. So in the Netherlands or in all countries, we aim for engaging all the different kinds of value chain actors, but we experienced, of course, that different value chain actors have different roles on the farm level. You have like the active value chain actors, such as the veterinarians, you have advisors, the farmers itself, but you also have some value chain actors that are a bit more, well, on a higher level, such as research, feed mills, yeah, these slaughterhouses, for example. So, well, it was also a challenge to encourage them to give them some to feel the responsibility as well to improve biosecurity compliance. So, yeah, as a farmers association, it is in the nature to start at the farm level, at the farmer, But for us, it was a great lesson to also think about the other value chain levels and to think about how to involve them better in these kind of processes. Another thing that was quite a challenge in the Netherlands, and maybe the others can also recognize this, is the catching crews and the vaccination teams, how to involve them in a good way in these kind of processes. Yeah, as they play a very important role in biosecurity on farm level, but yeah, you see that there are many different kind of people going on and off of the farm, and if you try to instruct them, the next time you are facing other people, so it is quite difficult to give instructions to them, and also if you're facing a language barrier. So then we tried to get to the management of these kind of catching teams organizations, but yeah, in our experience, it was quite a challenge to make major agreements on these sector level of the collective catching team. So maybe somebody else of our consortium can respond.
Yeah, for the catching crews, and let's say the engagement of people to not in the APIS itself, but in terms of improving biosecurity complaints. They also worked well. That's also feedback that we got from farmers at first when we came up to them and said we would like to help to improve biosecurity complaints. One thing that related in France, and I think it was also the case for different countries here, probably Italy, most of the time, lots of farmers, for example, said, yeah, I'm doing my best, but it's other people who are struggling with respecting biosecurity. And they are the ones we should target to improve biosecurity complaints, because we think about farmers, but obviously, as Annick said, there are many different people involved in biosecurity, whether they are catching crews, vaccination teams, even drivers. These three are the main ones in France that came up with biosecurity when we were asking farmers about this. And it's like pointing at the other people. Yeah, I am doing all I can. The other ones are not, so I won't do better. That's a very typical thing, and that's one of the challenges we have to face at first when for us when implementing supporting measures. It was to go beyond that aspect of this is the other one who's doing the bad thing. I'm doing good, but to make them also realize that they can do something. So we also had an experience in French with involving catching crews in a group discussion, because we realized these people don't really talk in general together. They work together, but they come on the farm, they just do the job and they go out, but they don't have time to talk about biosecurity and how they could work better together. So that's something we tried to work on in a group discussion, and it went really well, and they were very happy. And to us, that's actually the first time we were able to talk together and understand the other issues. So that was a challenge at first, but also a very interesting thing to realize that we really need to connect the stakeholders, even on the field, to work on biosecurity in a global way.
Okay, I completely agree with Nick and Justine regarding the catching crew. Actually, the only part of the Italian poultry production that was not involved in our AKIS were the external crews, mainly the catching crews, but we have also other external crews at national level. And the problem is that, at least in Italy, but I believe also in the other countries, the catching crews are not part of the integration of the integrated companies. They are, they belong to private companies, and people are called to load the birds for the slaughterhouse and so on. And the personnel is not a permanent personnel, usually in these companies. They change very frequently, and most of them are from countries that don't speak English, don't speak Italian, don't speak French, and so on. So the problem of catching crews seem to be very common all over Europe. And my suggestion would be to focus on these external people and try to face with this problem, because as Justin said, we all the farmers always say we are doing all our best with biosecurity, but many people coming from outside the farm do not follow the rules, do not understand actually the rules. That's all.
That sounds like the start of a new project.
Yes, or the catching cruise.
On the catching cruise. Anyone want to add to this, a solution maybe, or?
The result, maybe?
Yeah. Or
Oh, it's the last one, sorry.
No.
He'll do online as well. Oh, he'll go for it, he'll do it. Okay.
Laszlo, you go first.
No, my comment does not belong to the catching crew, but
Ah,
if you want
No, I
to,
just wanted to give some positive input. I've seen that these companies also try to invest, like for example, in boot racks, very practical things, that then the boots stay on the farm. It's a special device that is easy to clean. So there is awareness there. It could be better. It's, as you mentioned, not always easy to reach those people because they don't understand. But there is an awareness, and like in Belgium, they also have they belong to, or they have the service companies are also have audits from Belplume, which is our quality auto control. So there is a way. Also, I think that the farmer needs to understand this is not a dream job, catching chicken. So they should make sure that there is also a possibility for those people to have a place to sit, to eat, to wash, to also on that side, I think an effort can be done. But it's not all bad. I think there are initiatives that are positive in that side.
in order of the time, maybe we can switch to Laszlo to a different subject and let the catching cruise be one to think about in the future.
yes, just one comment to the catching crew. The Hungarian situation is that because of the lack of the knowledge of the knowledge of the real importance of the different biosecurity measures regarding the catching crews, the lower educated persons. So it's not working to give a real training or a real knowledge for the catching crews. And in Hungary, the rules, the follow the rules, only this way it's working. And on the other side, we change to think about the management of the biosecurity regarding the catching crews. So at the biggest Hungarian companies, the catching crews mostly working in the agriculture on the land. I don't know, some kind of fruits and other, but not animals, not with animals. And but these ones also belong to the integrated companies. And when some working is needed on the farms, for example, slaughtering or day of reception, the catching crews come, and this is one alternative way to avoid the higher risk of getting the infections in the poultry farms. So it's just in brackets from the Hungarian side. But to this question, the other one is the facing other problems. It's some negative basically, there was a growing mistrust of the project. This mistrust is coming due to basically two or three points. The majority of the project producers, farmers, underestimate the importance of biosecurity. Yes, I know our solution was, and our solution is the coaching, on-farm trainings, discussions, etc. But the project producers are aware the basic measure are important regarding biosecurity, but they are not aware of the details. So the components, the principles of the biosecurity, and on the other hand, the surveys, for example, the biocheck or the One surveys, the producers was confused in Hungary. They are confused this research, this surveys with the official authority surveys, and because of from the official authorities, it's coming some negative points. So they are totally know the correct answers for the questions, and this was some difficulties regarding the surveys, collecting the real data, Yeah, that's all.
Does anyone else wants to respond to that, has a similar view on the mistrust, on the political correct answers they were giving, or maybe a solution to it? Sure, this one.
In France, when we were doing this, we also asked ourselves, doing the surveys and everything, they know since biosecurity measures are well known, they know what to do. It's, somehow hard to be able to say he gave the correct answer about his farm and not what I want to hear. A thing about this that was interesting is that they are really, well, they were in France really more willing to be really honest about their own practices when the vets or their technicians or integrated weren't here. When it was just us implementing the measure, the coach would say, well, just the facilitator, since we don't have any power over them, we're not here to tell them that's good or not. We're here to try to help, and for that they understood quite quickly that they would just need to be as honest as possible. And the thing we're like asking is, what do you think to you? What is really important, and what can you improve on your farm? Do you think this measure is important if it's known for him? Well, we can work on something else. It's really up to him, but that allows us to be able to work in a honest way with them, without this question of power. And yeah, some of them were like, yeah, I didn't realize it would be important, but I'm glad I did it. And they were also glad that it was a different approach, that there is no power over this. It is not an official audit or anything else, and that we were really here to understand as well their own point of view, because they are the practitioners, they know their jobs. We have a different point of view, but we need to hear what they have to say. And that was a way to have them be as honest as possible.
Yes, I will add to this that it's important that the farmers know about it and create awareness about the importance of the biosecurity. But I think, based on our experience in Spain, that it's more important, no, it's equally important that all workers that works in the farms has this awareness, because if they're not create awareness, when the farmer, the responsible of the farm, we would call this, there's nothing farm, because it's other, because in Spain they have the farm, but they have another another business as well. It's not in the farm, and okay, it's not my boss here, so maybe it's important to create awareness as workers and like tell them that every person, every work that goes inside an IT logs or works inside farm related with the animals, they have the responsibility to take care of these animals to prevent this disease. Or they have some consequence if you get inside salmonella or avian influenza and Newcastle disease or another kind of disease. No? So for this reason, in Spain, we test the coaching, but in case of these farms that above all in the laying farms, that bigger laying farms, where they have a lot of workers, each workers works in each house, for example. So we coach as well, we train with a specific training, specifying the consequence or approximate cost or the consequences for not to work properly or not miss some steps, basic steps in HLO, for example, or the importance to do it and how they can prevent the dissemination of the pathogens inside, right? So be responsible, not only the farmer is responsible, all the person. So all the external, of course, but then each work. So we have to consider these, I think, for following things to coach or to train, to involve all. And we have experience that in big farms, for example, in the layer hunt with a lot of workers, it's interesting to coach in the same time or to try to create a discussion environment between the farmers and between the farmer, the responsible, and the our workers, because the workers are all time go inside the farm to see. It's more easy for them to see the gaps and communicate to the farmer and the farmers to give us a solution implementing the security measure. So this is my point of view specific for this vaccine. I don't know in other countries or humans.
Yes, I speak one word for Poland because based on our experience and feedback which we get from our poultry advisors in the frame of biosecurity. The main challenging thing is attitude of the farmer, because if the farmer is willing to change, it's much easier to collaborate with that farmer. It's much easier to help him to implement some changes on the farm, feasible for the farm. However, for some farmers who is very resistant to change, it's a more time-consuming process. And actually, we don't have many tools to, let's say, convince people to the implementation. You can provide awareness, you can provide the knowledge for them, but we don't have any tools actually to use it to force him to do that. So that's why our job is to, let's say, train the trainers, train the farmers, provide the knowledge and awareness that actually that's the farmer has to, let's say, understand and try to implement the changes.
Perfect. Then I want to go ahead with the technical aspects of this project and the challenges we face there. Two of the biggest ones were already mentioned, COVID-19, avian influenza. They were a real struggle in the beginning of this project when you have to engage all the APIS members and face those kind of challenges. Maybe can somebody give a solution to it? What did you guys do to reach the engagement and get the proactiveness of the members?
Transfer everything online.
Maybe you can give a practical solution or what you did. Just practically, what was the supporting measure you did? Maybe Hilda can start. She's waiting.
Hilda.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we are in constant threat of avian influenza, but there's also Salmonella, Campylobacter. So people are aware that biosecurity is important. but to do it every day is a bit boring. So that's why we have to find ways to support our farmers, our hatcheries, our catching crews, well, the whole chain. But what we did in this project was mainly work on farmers. So we engaged with all these farmers, tried to, first of all, we were able to go to the farms, and even with avian influenza, with good measures, we visited the farms, and I think that's also important, that the first contact was always together with the vet, because I think the veterinarian is the one that knows the farm and that probably has the best relationship with the farmer. And then to, first of all, make a diagnosis. What is the situation on this farm? And then how can we make steps? Because we cannot change everything in one go. So make a diagnosis and then see, okay, what can we first, what is attainable? Of course, we can put a fence around the farm, we can do a lot of things, but small steps can also help. And I think that was a good way to go. And then, try to convince the farmer that putting effort in biosecurity is worth it. Some of them, I know, said we have been doing this for many years and we're not going to change. That's also something to face. But I think it's true what we, with this coaching and with the ATKAR method, that it's important that you convince the farmer that it's worth investing time, effort, and money in biosecurity. So I had good experience with, not with all of them, I would be, but most of them understood and made small steps, and to go with them on the farm and say, okay, listen, this maybe is not, I see this because I'm a foreigner to your farm. And also that is something I think that is went well. And the coaching, I think, is like, yeah, you build up a trust relationship, and then you are able to, and not with a big finger, but say, maybe we can try this and do that. Slow steps, I think, works well.
So trust and baby steps. Someone else wants to add and tell you about something.
Yes, I think I can fully agree with Hilde. We also spoke a lot with the farmers and their veterinarians and advisors, and quite often we realized in the Netherlands that if you would like to make major improvements of biosecurity, you need to totally restructure your farm buildings in a modern way, which is quite hard and financially quite impossible. So indeed, we tried to make baby steps that also contributes to minimizing risks. Talking about avian influenza and COVID, as you have seen in the Netherlands, we did a full online trajectory, and I would like to point out one of the meetings we did, what was, in my opinion, and also from the farmers and advisors, quite successful, which is we did a Teams meeting, and we were working with Google Maps, in which we were looking at the farm zoning. And in Microsoft Teams, you're able to draw in the Microsoft Paint the zonings and the walking routes together with the farmers and the advisors. And we have invited like 3 to 4 farmers together with their vets and advisors to exchange about their situations on the different farms. So without visiting the different farms, they were able to see how it was structured on the different farms. We have used some important pictures, such as the hygiene log, the entrances of the farms, and so on. So it was a great inspiration for them all to see each other's farms and to create some action points and improvements based on what they have seen also at the other farms.
Yeah, maybe it's good to mention this project has produced a lot of fact sheets, podcasts, videos, and they are all findable online. So if you want to know more about the technique I used, just go to the website and find a fact sheet about it. Because we can all learn from each other, and those are available in a lot of languages. So also with catching crews or other people who speak in different languages, maybe some of the language is in between there, so you can speak more easily to them. Anybody wants to add something of the challenges, technical and economical, which they face in the project? Yeah, Lasso?
Just some information about the Hungarian producers, how they manage the biosecurity and the avian influenza. In Hungary, from year to year, more and more cases appear in the large-scale poultry farms, and since the new research results of avian influenza vaccination is appeared, and the producers get the knowledge of the results, some knowledge, yes, of course, from the use from the social media. It's a very, very uncomfortable situation for us regarding the biosecurity. They highlighted the importance of the biosecurity, because lots of producers tell us that no, the biosecurity cannot protect our farms against avian influenza, only the vaccines working. So in this situation, it's very hard, very difficult to start and tell the producers to believe in biosecurity. But we tried to mention the producer, to highlight that the biosecurity is not only the protection against avian influenza, it's a protection against most of the infections, diseases. And on the other side, when we just start a discussion with the improvement in a certain form of improving the biosecurity, at the first thought, what is came inside, from the producer's side, it's lots of money I have to invest. But we try to explain for the producers that most of the biosecurity measures need a very, very low cost, just to change the management of the farms. So, and this way it's working.
Steve, you want to add something? And then we can wrap this up.
Yeah, an important thing that I would like to add is, so we talked about baby steps, we talked about trust, and there's also something that was really important for us to help improving biosecurity, particularly to reach the numbers that we reached, because so we ended up global in like 70–75% of improvements of biosecurity, which is enormous considering the avian influenza crisis we went through and everything. So the first, in terms of technical aspects and economical aspects, the very first reaction that we got from the farmers when we were like, okay, what can we improve on your farm, was I don't have money, I don't have time, and I don't have any vision for the future because of avian influenza and other diseases. What was very convincing for them were the tools that we use, first of all, so baby step, trust, the tools. So the BioCheck and Yatkar that were presented to you this morning, they were actually really practical also for us as a coach, for example, to give them and to help them visualize what is biosecurity really, because this is risk analysis technically. It's hard to say. With biosecurity, the thing is we're trying to prevent, so we're trying to stop things from happening. So if things don't happen, it's hard sometimes to see if it's working or not. So it was really helpful, this tool, to help visualize and to convince the farmer into trying to see what he can change, even if it needs baby steps, and even if it's with very small amounts of money or time involved in there, it was still a good thing to do. So these tools and also the different approach that we used that were that wasn't really like a counsel. We're not giving advice really to them at first during the coaching, but it's really about him understanding his own situation, understanding what's happening, and being able to think on his own and take back the power to change really what and see what he can do and give him back, you know, this decision to himself. And that was very important. I'm pretty convinced that that's what worked with our approach to squatting measures, is that we gave them the power and we made them available to understand what's going on, what they can do more, and be also proud of their own work, even if they can't see it will work really or not. It's hard to tell, but at least to be proud of what they're doing. And it was, we had great feedback from them on this point to say, I'm more proud of myself now, and I am more reassured for the future on what I will be doing.
Perfect. Be a coach, not a dictator. I looked at Suzanne, are there any questions? No, not anyone? Because then we're gonna wrap it up with a short keynote of every network facilitator. I want to give them a chance to spread out their biggest learning and motivation for the future. I don't know what you have by heart. Just enlighten us. Yeah.
Yes, what I would like to tell you, we always use the sentence for the farmers during training, that your farms should be like your castle, so you have to defend it. So that's let's say sentence which works very well during the discussion with the biosecurity. So in the next step, of course, we still use a lot of supporting measures for our farmers in this field. So based on our data from the national countries, the interviewed people say that they are interested in many supporting measures. So we have a lot of options to use in practice. So I hope we will be working in practice. Based on this project, we had a lot of interesting materials which we can use in practice, which we can to share to farmers. I hope it will be working very well right now in the future.
Yes, for the Spanish case, I think as Laszlo says, I think the main points for now is to perform like a baby steps, as the says as well, because at the beginning when you start with the farmer, like to say, okay, it's a big investment, but I think one of the most important ways you can be measured for others, but is to create or to create a proper hygiene log, because most of the diseases are in the shoes, in the hands. I think it's important the hands as well, and it's not too much money. I think the problem here is to convince, and as I said before, not only the farmers, all the workers, that each time you are entering in the house, you are putting the specific shoes, at least a specific shoes, a specific gloves, or a proper hygiene mask, because there's a lot of pathogens in this surface. So I think we have to create awareness. And each person, for example, the catching fish as well, if they enter inside, they enter not for another gate or the big gate where they are enter the vehicle to remove the animals to the slaughter. They enter to the hygiene log and follow all the people. It doesn't matter if it's the own workers of the farmers, the farm, or each captain crew, or each person that goes inside. So I think it's a goal.
I'll just be quick because I said a lot, but I think what's important too is to link the stakeholders together and be able to open the dialogue between them, because they won't do it specifically on their own. So it's also a goal that would be nice to make, but to really open the dialogue between the stakeholders about biosecurity, even on the field.
Yes, I agree. For me, the main eye-opener was to really engage the whole APIS network in these kind of processes, and not only the farmer. because you create great impact with involving the others as well. And we're thinking about the value chain actors that are important to involve in these kind of processes. So I think in our projects we have involved quite many of them right now, but well, the challenge is to transfer these kind of skills to even more advisors and other value chain actors in the upcoming months. I'm enthusiastic about.
I think the way what we are starting at the beginning of the Netpoulsafe project, it's good way. And now the results show us that the biosecurity, the improvement of the biosecurity on the farm is working. So we can see on the data, we can see the results. So I think we need to, without higher investment in the producer side, just change the management and the know and yes, you need to invest more energy and more time to make a good discussion, training or train yourself, educate yourself. But on the other side, it's without higher investment, it's working. And I think we need a stronger relation, stronger connection between producers, between health authorities and the professionals, not only national, but also international level. So maybe we can extend this national network, international network in a higher, in other countries we can involve. And that's all.
Okay, just 3 words: create awareness, but based on the experience we gained thanks to the Netpoulsafe project. And based on the Italian network and people, mainly farmers involved in our EKIs, I can say that it's to involve and to create awareness in these people. Probably the best way is to support them with an active role. An active role, so a participatory role, discussions, practical examples, and so on, between pairs and between all the different stakeholders belonging to the integration. I don't have anything else to add.
I think we go for the last page words.
Yes.
Online maybe. Yep. That's you.
No, I think everything has been said more or less, that it's a joint effort of all the different parts of the chain of the poultry production. But I do think that we need to tell our farmers to take ownership, because it's their farm. They are responsible that biosecurity is followed by everybody who comes there. And maybe sometimes they need to be a bit more assertive in that way. Also, I hope that there's been a lot of nice information, fact sheets, videos made in this project, that we will manage to disseminate that in a good way, because that is also part of what we need to do, is to keep training people about all these new things. So I was very happy to be part of this project, and the job is not finished. We are only starting.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to this roundtable discussion. Thank you for the network facilitator for their opinions, their experiences. And if you have any questions left, then they are here this time. Some of them are here this whole day. Some of them has to catch base. But don't be afraid to contact us and check out the website. Thank you.
Final presentation before the Q&A session from Judita and Igor. So there has been materials mentioned just before, so they will tell you quickly a bit more about this.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for presentation. So now we are continuing with this final conference. So to review all these materials that we produced within 3 years during the roundtable, we say about it. So I'm Héctor Teresa from the Catholic in Spain. She's the facility from the sports and UPD. So this is a brief overview of this presentation. First, we will talk about the why producing dissemination materials in this project, following by showing the dissemination material to produce in this project, and most important, how to find the dissemination material, and as well how to use this material in a good way. So why? So first, there's different steps that we perform in the project. First, we create, as we already talked before, about the create a sustainable network of each national policies in each country. Then we analyze the effective implementation of these biosecurity measures, and then analyze and select the most effective ones and validate in the different pilot farms. And all this information we translate it in a different dissemination materials and we disseminate to the different stakeholders according to each situation with the most perfect communication and dissemination channels in each country in a local way and as well in the global way, in the European ways. So now we produce different dissemination materials. So all the knowledge gathered in the workbook 2, workbook 3 about the implementation, the biosecurity methods, reporting measure, and the results of the validation phase, we translate it into different, easy to understand dissemination materials and disseminate through different stakeholders. We produce fact sheets and practice abstract, a handbook that later I will explain that is a compilation of the all fact sheet that we produce with supporting measure, and we produce as well videos, webinars, podcasts, technical and scientific articles, and the model. So we produce this amount of the materials. We produce 50 fact sheets that we produce 50 in English and we translate each one in the different language of the project partners. Then we produce 1 in English and 6 in the different language. 40 videos, 55 podcasts, 1 MOOC in English, and the translation in each language of the project partners. 20 technical articles, and at least 3. At this moment we have 3, but we will do more, all in English. So in these materials, we explain, we show the different supporting measures targeting both partners and advisors. Then the priority is to show the supporting measure, but as well we include this in biosecurity well practice. So as I say before, we during this work on work package 2, work package 3, we select 50 supporting measures and some biosecurity measures. So these fact sheets, as we have this example of one of them. So it's an easy way to explain how the supporting measure or biosecurity is planned. For example, the fact sheet about coaching, if you follow properly in a good way this fact sheet, you can learn about how to do the coaching in a proper way and transfer to the farm. So there are some that is for farmers and another is for advisors to learn about how to perform this methodology and transfer this to a group of farmers, for example. So all are translated in the 7 language of the project, and the same content will be produced in a practice abstract way and and upload it in the API platform. And how this supporting as we identify, so the first batch of the fact sheet, the first 21s, we identified these two in the work as two, about how the importance this supporting this subordination. The second batch, there are more 31s. Either this subordination way identifying the validation phase in work as three, based on the work in the pilot parts, and as well in the different biosecurity measures we found in work as 2 and work as 3 that require explained in a simple way. So most of these fact sheets are, for example, protocols for catching crew, protocols for how to use the item work properly. So this explanatory of this fact sheet, even if it's show like a biosecurity measure protocol, this protocol itself act as a fact sheet, as a supporting measure. So this is the handbook. Now we'll explain how you can find this in our website. But the handbook is a compilation of all of these fact sheets. We in the website we have all these fact sheets alone, but in the handbook you can find all this information. And there are like 7 different fact sheets. Handbook with all different fact sheets in all the language of the project. So the structure of the handbook have an introduction, its objective, and then we are splitting in the supporting measure for farmers, advisors, and both of them, and biosecurity measure, farmer advisors, and both. And then a little conclusion. So now we have floor to Yulita to carry on with the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Arthur. Together with the fact sheets and the practice abstract and the handbook, we also managed, as required from the grant agreement of the project, we also managed to create some other dissemination materials. Starting from videos and podcast, the aim of these dissemination materials basically was to disseminate the most effective supporting measures developed, tested, and validated within each country, but also some interesting biosecurity measures that could have been present in one country and not in the other one. So this is why we came up with the dissemination materials in general, and specifically referring to videos and podcasts. I remember that when we were discussing about how to create them and where to store them, we faced some difficulties because, we were basically 7 countries involved in the project, speaking 7 different languages, but we managed to find a good compromise, which is YouTube, because in this way, in YouTube, we can boost the dissemination of all the materials produced, but also at the same time, there is a nice translation tool which allows the simultaneously translation of all the contents in all the languages. So we thought that that would be a nice compromise for this kind of dissemination material. This also goes for podcasts. So if you are interested in share them, use them, or even just listen to them or watch them, you can find them in YouTube. And speaking about the creation of just the videos, we worked on either PowerPoint presentations with animations and similar, or with real footages of any possible scenario in the farms. Together with that, we also managed to prepare some webinars, and we also managed to record them. So they are also stored in YouTube, should you be interested in watching them. This is just an example of a webinar that was created within the project. This is in French for sure, because some webinars were held in the local languages of the organizers. But again, as it is in YouTube, you can easily use the automatic translator for simultaneous translation. On top of that, we also worked on technical, scientific articles, but also abstract posters. I think that all of you maybe already saw the posters that are from the Netpoulsafe project outside. And speaking about technical articles, we mostly focus on articles written in the native languages. So each of the 7 countries was asked to, each partner of the 7 countries was asked to create some technical article in the local language in order to maximize the spread within the national ACIS. While we also worked on scientific articles, according to the grant agreement, we were asked to provide a minimum of 3 scientific articles, but I think that we already reached the minimum number and more articles are also coming in the next months. Finally, the e-learning modules. We also developed some e-learning modules on biosecurity in poultry farms, which are available in this platform, which is Future Learned. When developing the MOOCs, we calculated something like 4 weeks with a workload of 4 hours per week. And we also managed to translate them in all the languages of the consortium in a way that we can maximize and spread all the usage of this MOOC. They are available in Future Learn in their basic free version. If you are interested in attend them, what you only have to do is just to sign in the platform and start following them. But also more information and more details are available in the website concerning the e-learning models. In general, together with them, all the dissemination materials for the moment are stored in the website. So if you're interested, again, you can just click in the website. There is a specific section of the website called Knowledge Reservoir, in which you can find all the materials listed and sorted per typology, per country, per language, and everything. But again, we also have our YouTube channel in which you can find all the multimedia contents available in all languages. So where to use the dissemination materials? If you're interested, I would say that this is a little bit up to you. We use them in trainings. We developed a summer winter school within the project. And we also use them as supporting measures for activities within the project, but I think that this could be also interesting to be used as supporting measures in the farm. But also, as was discussed during the panel session, it would be also interesting to use them for continuous education in a way to keep all the participants of any training or participatory approach active and participative. Where you can find us on LinkedIn for sure, but we also have a Facebook page. But I would say that the main activities are shared and developed in our LinkedIn page. And here you can just see a couple of pictures that we took in these 3 years. I think that's it. Yeah. Big thank you to everyone, especially to the coordinator of the project, Justine, my ex-supervisor from UniPD, but specifically to this task, I would mainly thank you, Aitor, Deveza, and Charlotte Warrenburg, which really helped us a lot in the development and spread of dissemination materials. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I see a message in the chat from Yaite. So we'll present you the different materials that we've produced. So the project is coming to an end in March. Well, at the end of March. So the website will be down, but we won't lose, obviously, everything. There is a project that is called the EU Farm Book. That is a platform that will be launched in, there's a pre-launch in February. This is a platform for any particular agricultural materials, not only poultry, but they will gather very interesting materials on many different subjects. So this will be also part of the sustainability of our results and of the different materials. So they won't disappear, everything will be available online and probably on the EU Farm Book there. That is going to be a very interesting platform as well. Thank you. So for the Q&A session, I would like also to ask the presenters previous ones to come back. So within Arthur, Artie, and well, everyone who presented, Helena as well. If you can come back here for the questions, because I have questions for you.
In the meantime, if you have questions from the audience, feel free to go on the Slido, have a look at the other questions. It's already, if you want to, all have the answer, you can vote, so you can fill the Q&A.
We need this from the ones.
Yeah, but.
Oh. The second one. Yes.
So we put the different questions into categories, so no worries if one of your question was first, we will ask everything. So for the first question is for Moselle, actually two questions for you. So the first question is why work takes too much time and not enough trained in your data? Why was it, why were they combined into one single statement? And are these things always connected in case biosecurity measures implementation?
Okay, so yes, the two reasons takes too much time and not enough train. Were two major reasons reported by the farmers. They were not always connected in all our database, but according that it was really the main two reasons. It was that's why these two reasons appears on my site frequently for a lot of the security measures, but they are not connected.
Thank you. And another one for you, Lynn. How can you address the argument that the implementation of some biosecurity requires too much time, according to the farmers?
Okay, so for the answer, too much time. Our study was an interview study. It was based on the statement, on the declaration of the farmers. So we didn't really access the time or this data, but it's only a declaration of the farmers. But I think we can relate this declaration perhaps with a lack of awareness of the expected benefits, the benefit of the security measure. Perhaps it would be better if the farmer better understand the benefits for their farm of biosecurity. I think this type of time and benefits are linked.
Thank you. For Arthur now, why did webinars and social media groups had so low score for supporting required measures?
Yes, that's also quite interesting fact for us. However, we are working on the data which we get from the interviews. So we assume that that's the, let's say, opinion of the interviewed people in that specific supporting measures. So that's what we know from that field.
Not probably because of the habits.
Maybe it's connected with the age of the farmer, maybe some kind of individual preference, because of course, in our case, the group of interviewed people, it's still, let's say, not quite big. So that's the main issue.
Still for you, someone said, for me, it's surprising that audits from the governments are seen as successful supporting measures. Any comments on this?
Yes, of course, the audit for governmental audit, of course, force the farmer to implement the changes. So actually, it's like a consequence of this supporting measure, because the governmental, because of course, in each country there are some differences between the let's say specific biosecurity points in of the law regulation. However, it's successful because there's not an option for the farmer. So that's they mark in the questionnaire as a success.
So did you get any feedback why the farmers consider biosecurity measures are not useful or not effective?
There is a lot of answer, a lot of text, which because that was the semi-open questionnaire, which we process, and there is a lot of information why the farmers or why the operators claim that it's successful or not successful, and so on. They have some concerns for that. So each supporting measures has its own list. So if we speak about each one, supporting measures.
Biosecurity measures in general.
In general, so that's huge list. We try to publish this data. So I thought this year we will be finished this publication for that, because unfortunately this database is quite huge in that field. So not successful because they don't think that, as an example, the social media in some countries, some people not used to select this dissemination communication channel as important as a first choice to find some information which refers to biosecurity. Right? So it depends on the country, depends on the production and the interview people, the preference for this communication channels.
And for the both of you, do you think that evaluation of biosecurity implementation is a compulsory duty of veterinary agency? Or anyone else, I guess. It's a big question.
Indeed, it's a big question. Of course, I may speak about the Polish condition in my country, because in Poland, poultry veterinarians actually play a main role as an advisor also in biosecurity. But of course, as I said previously, I get feedback from them that they provide that, but they advise, they coach, but they don't have power to insist, to force the farmer to, let's say, implement some changes. So they don't have any tools actually. They may provide the knowledge, they may train, they may share the knowledge, they create awareness, of course, but it depends on the willingness of the farmer actually. So it's really challenging in that field.
Thank you. Now it's for Artie. During coaching visits, did you use other supporting measures on top of biocheck? For example, education materials, videos, etc.
I can speak for Belgium. We did give a presentation for some farm workers. Apart from that, we did not use educated materials. Instead, we used hygiene gram scores and ATP method to show them that even after cleaning, there is still some organic material that is present and that can not give better results with only for Belgium, but other countries, I think in Spain, additionally, they also gave some trainings apart from coaching. But I'm not sure about other tools for other countries if it was used. Maybe it was used in one or two, but not for all final times.
Yeah, it really, I think, really depended for this question on the different supporting measures that we implemented on the countries as well. On the farmer as well, some were quite aware of what they could do. They just didn't took time to do it. Some needed knowledge, then it was useful to give them educational materials or stuff like this. So I guess it really depended.
I would just like to add one thing, that we also think that this project took quite a long time. So we were developing also materials as the project was going along. And a lot of the coaching trajectories or other types of trainings were done at earlier stages. And there might have not been so many available materials, but now we have the e-learning, for instance, which is something that I think if we would start the project over again, this could be a starting point that we facilitate the access to the e-learning materials to every farmer that would participate in such a pilot farm uptake. But of course, that was done after or during the project, so obviously it would be hard for them to take part. But I think that would be one thing that could be left for upcoming projects, is that if they want to standardize, let's say, the approach that farmers have at the beginning, just to make sure that everybody is sufficiently informed, they could start with just doing an e-learning module and then, pick it up from there. Yeah.
We also made the coaching here in Italy. We didn't give any dissemination material during the coaching session, but just for laugh. I bought boots for every house in the farm for a farmer to convince him that changing boots would be a best practice, just for laugh.
Yeah, of course, if any other Netpoulsafe partners wanna answer some questions at some point, we have great students around here that will be welcome to you. Yes, you're good.
Yes, a little bit. I just wanted to comment, it's a bit outside, well, it's a bit larger than only that would say that there was this question or the comment about the fact that it's surprising that these obligatory evaluations of the biosecurity are successful or considered to be successful. Just for your information, we did recently an analysis of a couple of countries that have introduced these obligatory evaluations for 3 to 4 years now in some countries. And in each of those countries, we do see that the average biosecurity scores are going up. So the data really show, and it's in line with what Arthur just said, the data really show that these audits, these repeated audits do have an effect in improving the biosecurity.
Thank you. Still for RT, coaching was it always done with farm vet advisors or technicians?
In Belgium, it was always done with the farm vet. So once we evaluated the farm with the biochip, and we had a meeting, online meeting with the vet, discussed upfront what can be done for the farm. Made a short action plan together with the veterinarian when we coach the farms. It is always in the presence of the vet. I think depending on the ongoing issue, this person can be an advisor. Maybe not a vet, but maybe an expert in biosecurity. He can be somebody from the feed company. Yeah, based on the ongoing issues, I guess. Any other partner has comments on this?
I know for Brett, it wasn't always the case. We didn't always have vets or advisors. It really depended on the farmer as well. For example, for also direct selling farms, most of the time they don't really have advisors. It's or they have one once in a time, but they don't really have advisors. So we did it just with the farmer, and it was really helpful for them also to have us come in there as they don't have any advices in general for this. So it's I guess it really depended on the countries and how we work with our production in ACAS.
In our experience, in one farm, it was very difficult for the farmer to really open up and start talking, but with the vet, it was easier for her. But it can be the other way around in some farms. They are more comfortable speak. For example, when they had the integrators together, they were not comfortable in speaking. I think it was one of your comments. They integrated the sectors.
Yeah. Scores from BioCheck were also available for the farms attending group discussions.
Yeah, for all countries, I think the BioCheck was. It was not just for individual the coachings or trainings. Even for group discussions, I think the farm scores were evaluated, and based on that, they move forward with the discussions.
Yeah, it allowed us to see the improvements of biosecurity after the implementation of supporting measures. What to do for obtaining more reliable and convincing indicators of biosecurity efficiency than measure implementation or the current biochip score? What more could we do for this? Good question.
Can you read it?
Yeah. What to do for obtaining more reliable and convincing indicators of biosecurity efficiency?
Can anyone tell?
Well, you can also have ideas in the audience as well from your own
The
point.
issue is that what do they mean with reliable? I mean, how is what we did not reliable? In which scale exactly? And I guess you could find different ways to evaluate. I guess you could find different ways to evaluate biosecurity with different scoring systems. I mean, there's even the cost of action. There's a whole working group just looking at different ways to assess biosecurity. So obviously, I mean, what is reliable? I think it's a bit of a more philosophical question, right? Because there is no, let's say, true assessment of biosecurity. So, and then this is one point. I guess the question would be more, what else can we do that could supply us with more information so that we could adjust our actions a little bit better, let's say. I think we tried as much as we could to address the points of the technical aspects that are addressed with the biocheck score. And then you have the ADCAR, which deals a lot with perception, but also, for instance, ADCAR is one of the methodologies that you can use. There are others. I think it's a whole inventory of things we could have done if we had endless time and money. So I think you always have to be a bit selective with what you can do and where the expertise in your project. And in this project, where expertise is with ADCAR, with Partage, and with biocheck. And of course, we tried to look into the economic assessments, and we were missing information that was crucial. So what else could we have done? I guess we could have had more time. And maybe perhaps we could have been more aware of the difficulties we were going to get in the beginning of the project with getting some of the important information. And maybe we could have changed that. Maybe take some necessary steps. But yeah, I think other than using different assessment methods, which I'm sure people here in the audience will know more than us because there's really many others. I think we did a pretty good job in covering most of the important aspects.
Do you want to say something on this? Yeah.
I put this question, so that's because I want to, because if you use the implementation of one laser as indicator of the efficiency of the laser. So.
Measure to indicate the efficiency of the measure.
The indicator of the representation was quite certain. The efficiency of the laser was the indicator of the efficiency of the laser was the implementation of the laser.
You mean the supporting measure or the biosecurity measure? There's two different types of measures. So the supporting measure was related to implementation of biosecurity. So the supporting measure were the measures that were used to, let's say, incentivize adoption of biosecurity implementation.
The one incentivize farmers to adopt the laser, build by farmers, for example.
Yes.
And if you want to give him an incentive, you should demonstrate that the application of the laser is useful for him.
Yes, but that was part of the trajectory. Okay, so maybe there's an important part here. What were the supporting measures themselves? They also did this as a process, right? So in the supporting measures, we did the coaching and the group discussion. In the group discussion, one of the things is that we tried to highlight how their own behavior changing in a particular direction would lead to benefits. And sometimes when we were trying to create that argument and we were trying to incentivize the farmer to do a change, it was difficult because they would say, for instance, that this is not, this costs too much money before they started. But then I think this is the point of this project is that before the coaching, after the coaching, during the process, they change their minds. Sometimes more than others, of course. And the point was that are there ways to incentivize them or
processes to incentivize them that are more efficient in making them change their minds? This was a big question, but of course, it's a complicated question because there's also the individual's personality, the context in which they're raising their animals, the type of production they have. These are all important elements. We are not making a big claim on that. We don't have the resolution of the data to make that. And we have ultimately not enough farms with too many differences between them to reach those conclusions.
What I mean is that you should say that if you implement this measure, you have a good probability to lower your impact of this
Yes.
pathology,
Yes.
of this.
Yes, that was part of the process. So the coaching and in the group discussion, we didn't say we have a high probability of this and that because those are topics and if you tell that to a farmer, they don't understand. But we try to communicate on
You
the.
have this information.
Yes.
You know of how much you can reduce the incidence of a given disease through a
By support? That's a very tricky business.
That's the problem.
I'm gonna stop you there on this,
Yes.
we're gonna go through the other questions, but indeed,
Yeah.
for this, it is quite tricky to measure.
You cannot make such a direct, that is a calculation that will be leading to a lot of issues. You would have to make a lot of assumptions to come up with such a value because you have to take a lot of things into account. And most farmers will tell you that biosecurity will not prevent outbreaks. I mean, it can lower the probability, but it will not prevent outbreaks. Because there are other things to take into account, obviously, right?
By speaking of forcing farmers to implement something.
We were not forcing anybody, I think. We are trying to show the benefits of implementing biosecurity and saying that one of the benefits is reducing the probability of having disease coming in and spreading in the farm. But of course, if you want to convince somebody to do something, saying something like reduce probability.
This is just an assumption.
Yeah, it's of course, it's an assumption, for sure.
Can I?
Yes.
I think this is a fundamental discussion, so I would like to.
Sure.
And the people connected hear what we are saying with the microphone, which is not part of it.
Can you hear me?
You need to switch up, Helena. Switch up the mic, that's the reason why it's.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a 100% valid question because it's the difference between implementation and efficacy. So what has been measured within the Netpoulsafe project is to what extent are certain biosecurity measures implemented. And essentially it doesn't say anything about the efficacy. And so but what is behind the implementation, of course, is that we asked about questions for which we consider that if you implement them, that you do prevent to a certain extent the health of the animals, so prevent diseases. And the way that was done, at least in the biocheck, which is used extensively, is based on literature reviews. So on literature surveys, we've developed a list of actually we first developed a list of risk factors for disease transmission, and then we've translated these risk factors into preventive measures. So what can you do to avoid the risk factor? And that is then weighted based on expert opinions. So that is the state at this sort of point of knowledge, or that maybe should say the absence of knowledge to a certain extent where we'll be facing at that. So in response to your question, how can we improve it? Well, the first thing is we do need to improve it, definitely. And the answer is probably in a very big combination of approaches. As we also in the biosecurity project and other research we are trying to do is we're looking at it from an experimental point of view, how in experiments, how much reduction of the infection loads you can achieve. We're also trying to look at it from modeling point of view, where then these reductions are targeted to be modeled into percentages of reduction of probabilities. But then again, also that will not give you the final answer. I I'm afraid, but what ideally we should have is we should be able to link the database on biosecurity scoring, biosecurity implementation to another, unfortunately, largely an existing database of production results of disease outbreaks, disease incidents, or very scattered. It might exist, but it's very scattered, and so it's a hard time to link those two databases. But that would give us a powerful tool. At this stage, we have huge amount of quite big amount of data on biosecurity app implementation, but we're not yet capable to link that to the disease incidents, productivity, daily weight gain, whatever, food conversion, and so on. So that is the part that is missing, and would be fantastic if we could fill that gap in the coming years.
Thank you. I will have to stop you. I'm very sorry for the other questions, but it's I think a very interesting discussion to have also after the session, if you'd like. Thank you. So a few more questions. We won't be able to answer all of the questions if you want to stay in time. But for all the questions that won't be answered, we will answer to them either online or we will send a recap with the other questions to everyone. So just two last questions then. For Lina, do you have details of financial compensation available at member states and the eligible items?
Well, we have largely been able to only gather the information that was presented in the slide. So we have some information for some member states, and it's quite partial at the moment. In fact, that was initially the idea was to gather a much more comprehensive amount of data per member states. And I'm hoping that from this data, we will continue to work on it and by working together with each one of the partners to try to get more comprehensive information from each one of the points, because that was initially the idea, but it proved to be quite difficult to gather that data, also because each country has their own particularities when it comes to subsidizing or compensating farmers. So the answer to that is that work is ongoing, actually.
Okay, thank you. I guess this question is kind of for me, another network facilitator, but you mentioned that group discussion are most useful to influence reluctant farmers. How do you make sure that reluctant farmers come to these group meetings? This is indeed an issue we had in France and a question we ask ourselves. For reluctant farmers, how do we involve them? Well, one of the answer that we had is going through illicit work for integrated companies, but to have them come in group discussions within the scope of their protection organism, because that's a thing they are kind of used to do, not in the way that we do, but that was one of our answers for this. And one very big last question, I guess, and pretty global to end this, but should biosecurity actions be imposed by law to avoid that farmers do not comply once they're not being audited? Good question.
I think for this question, it would be interesting to have mostly the network facilitators talking about their experience, what they thought that, what do they think the farmers will feel?
Of course, in Polish conditions, farmers always say that they are overloaded with documents and other things during activities. So they, let's say, it depends, because it depends on the farmer, depends on the farmer's attitudes. Actually, some of them, they are willing to change, they want to improve biosecurity on their farm, but some of them, they claim that it doesn't work. Not necessarily, I have antibiotics, but we don't need biosecurity. Totally wrong. But there's different opinion. Of course, our governmental veterinarians do best, but actually there is also a lot of gaps we have to, which each farmer has to be on the farm and fulfill But they have to will to change, so that's the issue, I think.
Also, the financial support should be imposed to the government, I believe, because many biosecurity measures require a lot of money to be implemented, especially those structural. We have in Italy, we have modified many implemented and modified the farms according to the legislation, but farmers need money. Some of them are really very expensive. I believe this is all my opinion, not the opinion of the.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So yeah, we skipped a few questions. We will still answer them, no worries. And I guess we will go into the last session. You can go back to your seat. Thank you. Alberto and Elias, if you want to come here. So for yeah.
Now I saw the pictures then.
For this part, this is more of a discussion, I guess, than an interview, and kind of a transition to make with the cause better. So we presented you very different results, the work of 3 years that we've done in Netpoulsafe. But a thing that we are asked, obviously, that we want is sustainability, whether they are of the results of the platform. So we had in Netpoulsafe this EU Farm Book platform that we're working with. But we're also talking with the results and materials and everything, thinking about the sustainability of the network as itself. And I guess that's the hardest parts. That's the thing we were discussing before, and that we discussed within Netpoulsafe, is how to keep our network alive once the project is over. So that's the thing I wanted to discuss also with the cause better, because they also will have this question to answer at some point for the commission and after the projects. So I will speak a little bit first about the sustainability of the Netpoulsafe network, but we are thinking about linking to other projects that are related. So Cause Better is actually one of them. There is like 1.5 years left, right? For this, we were thinking, so some Netpoulsafe partners are already part of the Cause Better, but others are not. So one of the thing we had would be joining the Cause Better as well, if you would be willing to welcome us. Maybe.
You are very welcome. You are very welcome. Construction projects are very open, very inclusive. I mean, they are always open and to have new members. You would not get paid for working there, but it's very good to get there. Yeah. So I think that would be something logical, no? If you are finishing now the Netpoulsafe project, getting involved in the construction and the activities that we are running now, I think that would be very beneficial for us for sure, and maybe also for the people that get involved.
One of the questions we had, I guess it's a big question, and we also have it for ourselves, but to you, what's the big challenges with thematic networks? Because they come with, and we've been living with it too. To you in your Cause Better scope as well, what's the biggest challenges with networking like this?
Well, for me, the main limitation of the construction and the biggest challenge, here the members, I don't know if they will agree or not, is that, and also we have a chair of a previous construction, is that the construction only pays networking. So it's important that you work in parallel with other projects, because we want to do a lot of things, with a lot of activities, a lot of meetings, and a lot of things that we want to do. But you don't have people that stay for working on the project, so you have to work in parallel with other projects. You have to run synergies with the students for dogs or your own time. So that is sometimes it's complicated to find the enough time, no, to work on that. That's one thing. And for me, it's the main aspect. For the rest of the challenges,
I think that we are coping more or less well with the active people, and here we have 340 people. Of course, not everyone is active, but still they have the opportunity to be. And but for me, the main challenge is this: is the philosophy of the project networking, and without having a specific postdocs or people to work 100% on the project. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, I totally agree. And just to add that in cost action, especially because it's not paid, not really atomized in small tasks, it tends to be really big topics. So that starts as a good idea, but it's a lot of work. And then it becomes a hurdle. But I think in better, we are kind of addressing it well, and people have worked a lot, and so it can be done. And it's good to have this open atmosphere, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any, have you ever discussed too about the sustainability of after the cost better, like we do?
Not for the moment.
Not for the moment.
Not for the moment. We have some ideas that have been around. I already mentioned previously. And now, I will say here also, there is a World Animal Biosecurity Association that is being, they want to create it now. So I think that linking with this WAL, as they call it, that would be a good thing to try to maintain at least the network. And then there is another initiative, but that is more focused in developing countries, that is from FAO, that probably you are also aware, that the FAO community of practice, basically. And there is also an network. And a part of that is going for some other kind of projects to get some subsidies. But we have not really deep discussion.
That's fine. Just general questions. On our side, no.
Not really.
Yeah. Do you have the general word on, well, I guess you don't put comments, no. No, all right. Yeah, so we are thinking, well, about obviously the sustainability, so finding the cost. We also have other project, as we said, we between the network we also have different people working on different projects. Some people are connected to more AKIS related projects, whether there are two projects that we have in mind. It's the I2 Connect project and Modern AKIS project that are more agricultural. We also worked a lot on our national AKIS, obviously. And there are rural networks that are live technically in the countries. So one of the aspects we have for sustainability is to contact these and try to transfer not only our results but also our AKIS and knowledge to these rural networks that we have the best we can. At least we can try. And yeah, that would be it. Thank you.
Say that, as you know, the other half of the bill is more like to the cost better. So what better way to be, let's say, immersed to the activities of cost better than to attend and ask your question, and it's the work cafe activities. I'm sure you're going to understand a lot more than by just us explaining here. You're going to be directly immersed. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Today.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So I guess I will go to the acknowledgements of everyone for this. So it's been 3 years. I wasn't there for 3 years. I was there only for 1, but I've been able to meet everyone and to work with everyone for this last year. We still have 2 months to go though. As you realize, we have lots of results and we're still working on some of them because we have many different things to work on. But I would like, first of all, to thank all of the Netpoulsafe partners that have been working on this project. So you have everyone here. I'm not going to cite everyone, but everyone has been putting lots of efforts, energy, whether it is on working for their own national ACAS and for their own national issues, but also together to give experts, to share experts' knowledge and to share our own experiences, which was a very great experience. So thank you to everyone for the job and for the help and for everything in this network, and also for the energy you put into envisioning the future as well and the sustainability on this. Also a big thank you to all farmers advisors who worked with us during this project, who helped us to make this concrete and to give real results. Thanks to our national ACAS, everyone who has been engaged in the project. They've been very helpful, and we built quite a big community around this question. I would like to thank the European Commission on behalf of everyone in Netpoulsafe and our policy officers for helping us going through this project and for supporting us as well in our problematics. I would like also to thank the organizer of the final conference here in Padova, Alessandra. She's been putting a lot of work in there with also everyone else in Padova, the students, the other people everywhere. Thank you very much. It's been a great, and it will still be great, I guess, for today and tomorrow. And thank you to the Costetter in general, to co-chair for your welcome, for also this joint meeting that is very good to us, and we're very happy to be here with everyone. I would also like to say a special thank to the previous coordinator. She's been for 2 years of this project before me, and Christine Leport. Yeah, thank you again to everyone. It's been a great pleasure to work. We still have 2 months to go for Netpoulsafe, and we will still work with everyone, I guess, in the cost and other future projects. So thank you, and I hope you will enjoy your afternoon, and I hope that you enjoyed this morning together.